Test, microphone test. Am I heard? Am I clear? Do you hear me? Yes, I'm heard. Sufficient. Scotty, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever you may call it.
Good evening, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night.
Exactly. So what time is it over there?
12:13 a.m. What time is it in Britain?
It's 1:15 in the afternoon.
So it's very different.
Yeah, it's very different. So how's it going?
Great. No complaints. How's it going with you?
Well, I'm struggling to get the word out, trying to spread the word, trying to preach to people about this earth. It's not so easy. People want evidence and proof. They're not using their intuition and common sense, because the kind of evidence that people want is out of our hand. We don't have the means. That doesn't mean that we don't know.
You mean the kind of evidence isn't portrayed and spoken about by the mainstream media?
Well, no. What I mean is, yeah, probably that as well. But in order to provide evidence that, like, the bored earthers want, like,
well, the reality is 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 unless the mainstream media says it does.
Yeah, but it does though. If you have one object and another object, you now have two objects. Yeah.
Oh, it does, but in the brainwashed minds of the masses, unless the government and mainstream media and the education system doesn't agree with it, it doesn't exist in reality.
Yeah, I see where you're going.
Thankfully.
But I mean, it's like a lot of these bored earthers, I think they do believe in flat earth, but they're the kind of people who want tangible, concrete, evidence where they can show their friends or their peers.
I don't know. I've heard a lot. I've been in a lot of conversations with a lot of balls, and they seriously believe all the bullshit. And it's so sad because they're all looking at me like, "Oh, this dumb cunt." And it's just
no. What I mean is, hold on. What I mean is, yeah, bored earthers out there will believe in a board, right?
They really believe it.
Well, hold on. Let me finish.
Sorry.
I'm saying that the bored earthers out there, in the so-called real world, will believe in a board, right? That's fine. But I'm talking about the bored earthers that come here, the bored earthers that are here day in, day out, night after night. They are looking for something from us. Like, what have you got? What can you do? How can you provide? Because they keep asking the question, show us your model. So what that means is that they're not 100% sure about their reality, their worldview, right? And that. Just look at that. This is from my perspective. When I look at that the bored earthers that come here, just to argue, it seems strange that they're here. For me, they don't believe in their board 100%. They just are waiting for someone like a flat earther to bring in. That's what they're here for. It's like the news. What do they have today? They watch flat earth videos. They're interested in the subject. Okay, so imagine schools and universities and colleges were to come to this knowledge that people are questioning the board. They would have doubt. Where there is doubt, okay, people will always seek and continue to find out and want to know what's going on. And that's exactly what's happening right here, right now. And this is how we know that we have some agents involved, because, a lot of them are showing high resistance. I mean, even when you present, there's people banging their heads against walls here, showing them evidence, showing them proof, showing them how things work, basically trying to plead to come together to come to some kind of conclusion, but they're just resisting, right? There's a resistance. So that in itself shows there's something in it, yeah. And so that's where we're at. A
lot of people are heavily invested in this resistance because they've got their high school bloody indoctrinated lies or higher education what they believe in. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's hard to get back from that. Like, believing in the lies, especially higher education within like theoretical physics and many things like that. It's hard to be like, well, it's all bullshit, and I've been taught lies, and my whole existence is fraudulent because. Yeah,
but I'm talking about the people that come into the fold, into the collective. Yeah, here that are with us. People that join these flat Earth rooms, the bored Earth. They don't truly believe in a board, otherwise they wouldn't be here. So they have two. There's a few reasons. You find it funny, but you you don't find the same joke. Like if I told you, why did the chicken cross the road? And you were like, I don't know. And I told you, get to the other side. You might say, haha, that's quite funny. But if I told you again and again and again, you would say, all right, Chemo, no more jokes now. It's not funny anymore, right? So the joke is that if this is a joke to them, that we find the flat earth, we find the earth to be flat. Haha, very funny. But they come back to listen to that joke time and time again. So there has to be reasons for that.
It's so butthurt and they're so offended that we actually believe in this in their viewpoint.
No, I don't think it's that. It's not. The offense comes from, because look, they think they're intelligent. They think they have knowledge. They think they have they think they know how the world works better than somebody who hasn't been spending or wasting their time at university, right? So they would say, well, I've studied, I have a degree, diploma, so I know more than you. That's what the system tells us, okay?
Bingo.
Yeah, so when someone like myself or yourself tries to tell them, but it's not true what you've been learning, it's all false, you know, then this obviously is going to cause, you know, it's you destroy a person's livelihood, lifestyle. Exactly, that person is destroyed. He'll be left with nothing. Yes, if you put all your energy into something and somebody takes it away from you, you are nobody. You are nothing. And the person who's told you becomes something, and they want to prevent that. They want to prevent people who use their intelligence, as in intuition and senses. They want to eradicate those people. Like we have no place in this society. Yes, and this is what they're up against. They're up against people who see how things work without destroying it. Like, you know, most people, like, you know, when you're a child, you like to destroy the car, you know, break up, you know, a fire engine, see how it works, put it back together, whatever, and you know, some people can figure out how things work without actually having to do all that. And they want to know why. They're very interested in why, you know, and it's like they can't answer that why. So that's the problem for them.
And the sad thing about the athletic model, the simplest things are so easy to understand. Like I was on a chat on Earth Discussions, I was trying to explain how gravity doesn't exist, and you know we're essentially grounded because the air around us we weigh more than it, so it's so obviously apparent how it works. And there's no universal up and down. There's a real up and down, and they were going on and on about absolutely garbage. It's like you've been so indoctrinated that in your mind the most complicated, most contrived bullshit answer is the real one. But you've got to look at it in simple terms, and that's the real answer. And it's right in front of their eyes, and they think they're so intellectual, and they can't even see it. It's like talking to children. Like it's unbelievable how smart they think they really are, and how dumb they really are. It's I can't sometimes I can't stand it.
And really know, I mean, if like they want an explanation on why things fall to the ground. I mean, for me, a flat Earth, that still needs to be explained in terms of science. I mean, for the general man, who cares? What goes up comes down. It's not a big deal. It's normal. It's common sense. Yeah, what goes up must come down. But to the scientist, he wants to understand that force. What is that force? That see, they like to deal with forces. Like what is the cause of
magical
something? Yeah, but that's what they're trying. That's what they can't answer these things. They don't know the force of any given thing, and that's their problem. Okay,
because the whole world and universe is based on gravity, and that doesn't exist. So they can't contextualize a reality, and it's so sad, man. I think I'm an idiot, and I'm just like, oh boy, like it's so fucking sad. It's not funny, man. They're so brainwashed. It's actually sad. It
is sad, but it's also interesting. Like the mindset, like you know, it's resilient. When somebody sets their mind to something, you know, it's very difficult. You know, somebody's set in their ways. So for me, that's very interesting. You know, someone who is very dedicated, because obviously, from my point of view, I see it that they see it that we've never believed in a ball. They don't understand that everybody, you know, understood the ball mechanics, physics, whatever they told us. Nobody argued that, and all of a sudden, you know, it's like we've seen the light, and because we've seen the light, you know, again, it's like, well, these guys are supposed to have the knowledge, so how can someone like, you know, myself or yourself recognize it before them? That's all we're up against. That's it. We're not up against is it a ball, is it flat? That's been proven. It was no spinning ball. They cannot, if they had real proof of a spinning ball, they would show us overnight without a problem. Extraordinary
claims require like still no evidence. And there's no evidence of curve or motion, and they can't see the Kit Kat around their heads. It's like
so that's why I don't get frustrated in in this paradigm, because as long as the people, you're telling people, like anyone with common sense will use their common sense, right? So I'm not arguing with, say, someone like Thor's or Steve to prove to actual Steve. I'm not trying to prove to Steve or to Thor's. You speak for the people. The people who are thinking, who are not sure, they're confused about this. How could it be? Is it possible? And people just want to hear the possibility. Yeah. So I was speaking with someone about this, about the island thing, right? And I was saying,
I listened to.
Yeah, but no, this is off air. This was someone else. I was saying,
okay.
Yeah, about the same thing, but I was basically going on a bit further, and I was saying, so what would it mean then if you could see those islands, right? And a lot of ballers has refused to answer that, right? They refuse to answer. Well, if those calculations are correct, that you can see those islands and it's not refraction, it's not a trick of the eye, what does it mean, right? They want to tell you something. Oh, well, there must be an error, there must be a mistake, there was something wrong here, and they won't admit that if this guy has done everything right, then it would mean that the earth is flat, right? But a lot of them don't say this. They refuse to say it. They don't want to entertain the idea. I mean, you entertain any idea. People entertain aliens, for goodness sake. You entertain all kinds of things just for the sake of entertainment. So they should humor us. Okay, if it was flat, then this would have to happen, this would have to happen, and this, and this. They don't do that. They just dismiss it.
The reality is basically made up of false assumptions, really.
Right.
And this bloke in chat says,
and you're absolutely right. And do you know what happens? A lot of these people, they end up saying the most ridiculous things, the most
and they don't realize it.
Yeah, they don't even realize what they're saying, right? Their heads is so fried or fraggled that they just I was speaking with this one guy. I don't know if it was by the time, and I said to him, well, why can't we have video or photo of the Earth? He says we can't see far enough. We can't see that distance, that kind of. I had to educate this guy that we can see billions and trillions of miles into space, supposedly, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a big issue for that satellite that can see trillions and billions of light years away into space to just turn around or just have a camera on the other side or whatever, and look at the Earth. They act like this is the hardest thing to do. We're modern technology that that they should have. That is what is frustrating. Is that they try to deceive people that we just don't have the technology yet. We're not capable. Well, maybe you're not capable.
With them, any excuse will do.
Any excuse will do.
Any excuse is hilarious.
And that's what I'm saying. They come up with the most ludicrous excuses of why. Oh, we don't need to know. Man doesn't want to know. They've done enough. Why should they prove to you? Like it's to me personally. They're trying to prove to. It should be to the guy who says that question. Why should they want to prove to you? But what about to you? Because you're satisfied with the best evidence that they provide. Some people are just not satisfied with that. I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that. And they seem to get away with a lot. They get away with a lot, and this is why I come here from time to time, because a lot of these ball earthers, they get away with saying everything and anything just to divert and just change the course of direction. Okay, and a lot of flat earthers who are kind of on the fence, they can easily fall to this peer pressure easily. If you've got a weak mind and a weak spirit, you can be easily turned. And I like to think that I looked at this properly. I would never have come out and said such wild things if I thought it was a ball still. I truly thought it was a ball. We were spinning. I didn't question it until it was brought to my attention. People bring information to your attention. It's like, look at this. People are saying, and of course you say it's ridiculous. It's normal. People say, no, look at this. Have a look more at this. Have a look more at this. And then you come to the conclusion. And if you can't get the evidence from NASA, and the thing that annoys me, there's loads of things in this movie that annoys me. They rely on China. America relies on China or Japan or wherever it is for proof and evidence. They say, look at the Himawari. This is ridiculous. This is the last place.
Russia would have exposed the moon landings by now. It's fucking ridiculous.
Absolutely absurd.
They're all on it.
They say Russia's been exposed. Nobody in America believes they went to the moon. People in Russia, the people on the ground, world don't believe America went to the moon. So what they talk about expose. Expose what? If you ask any Russian person, they don't believe that America went to the moon. You know, they think it's a big hoax. So I don't know, you know, where these exactly they say things, just they don't know what they're saying. They've lost their mind, right?
Yep.
And that, you know, you'd want the first woman on the moon. You'd want the first, you know, black, the first Chinese, the first Irishman, the first Frenchman on the moon. You'd want all this. The first tourist, yeah?
Yep.
And they kind of brush it off like, no, nobody wouldn't want the first woman on the moon. Nobody wants to see that, you know, come on. You know, the youngest person on the moon, the oldest person on the moon. So many records to break. We thrive on record break. Yes, the highest, the fastest, the strongest, you know, to be the best, number one. That's all we do. That's all we concentrate. And you're telling me that we don't want the first person, the first woman, you know, children on the moon, children, teenage astronauts. They would want this. If it was possible, they would do this, right? And they'll say anything, do anything just to protect.
If you went to the moon, like, you know, 50, 60 years ago, by today's standards, we would have had bloody teenagers on the moon by now, 100%.
Definitely, but exactly. If we had continued, you know, from when we said we went to the moon, we would be in Mars. We would be on Mars by now. Absolutely, there would be no problem, be no issue. In fact, they would have gone to Mars ages ago, a long time ago. And you know, again, these things, you know, increase the thought that everything is just a hoax and a lie. You know, you kind of think, well, what is true? And then you get people, these ballers, like, how do you know you are true? How do you know China exists? These are just so ridiculous. You know, how can people compare? Do you think China is real? How do you know China exists? Because you haven't been there. And things like that. These arguments, they go nowhere.
Exactly. But they'll hold on to their fancy as long as they can.
But the numbers are increasing. I was looking at some of the videos that, you know, they're starting to get like 200,000 standard now. You know, 300,000, 100,000. They're in the hundreds of thousands standard and that, yeah. And people are becoming more and more. It just the problem is now just where is it going to go? Because you can only you know, repeat the same information until we get new information. You know, and like I said, we do have people out there. People are so passionate about this, and they will find the truth. It's just, can they? It's like advertisement, isn't it? Advertisement. Do they have the resources, funding, sponsoring to get the word out there? That's all that needs to happen. Getting the word out there. Is YouTube?
Can they get past their sci-fi space fantasy? Can they get past their sci-fi space fantasy?
The sci-fi, yeah, right. Exactly. See? So I mean, we're at the forefront of this. You know, that's what's good to know, is that, you know, we were the ones that were keeping the light, holding that light, shining that light. For those who are afraid, you know, people are actually afraid to speak about it because of what comes with it. You lose your family, your friends, you lose your job. You know, people will think you're insane. People will think that you're crazy, and that, you know, nobody wants to be associated with crazy people like that, you know. And we're at the front of that. We're at the forefront. They'll be like, who were the guys who were speaking about this? What was happening? Like, they will say, these guys were so brave, you know, amongst all these so-called haters, you know, and deniers. You guys were brave, you know, and we would inspire those who are afraid to speak up. Absolutely. That's what will happen. People have inspired me to speak up, and that's what needs to be done. How did you finally feel confident? You know, when did you think enough is enough? I know it's flat.
I guess enough research, you know, enough, you know.
Yeah, but when did you start? Yeah, but when you knew, did you just start speaking about it?
I'd say probably 3 years ago, I probably knew. Speaking about it, probably the same.
Just started speaking about it, no matter what anybody said.
Yep. I mean, I convinced me best mate, which is really fantastic, and now he's full hardcore flat earther, which is great.
Yeah, like I say, it's not difficult really to convince an honest person, you know, somebody who has no agenda, you know, and I think that's the problem they have. As soon as it comes out, as soon as you speak to anybody and give them the right information, because they're going to have questions. If you answer every question, obviously there are some things that you won't know, but most things can be answered, right?
Exactly. And you'd hope that there is page heroes, because if there isn't page heroes, that'll mean there's a lot of stupid people out there, and a lot of loss in, you know, faith in humanity. That's for sure.
There is a lot of stupid people. Let Mark out.
Here comes retard number one.
Unhide outside, Mark?
Yeah, I don't know if he's here, Kimo.
Yeah, you're there now. Yeah, that's it. There you are. Yeah, so Mark's another one who needs, assistance in understanding how the world works.
only coming
He
to
loves
Australia
rats,
Christmas,
But
and
you
you
see,
fucking started cutting
Mark
me
is a
off.
good example. Mark is a good
That's
example.
nice, that is, isn't it?
Mark is a good example of somebody who believes what we say, but he needs something more.
But he loves his CNN and Fox News.
No, because
Oh,
he wouldn't just...
Kimo, I had to come in because I heard you say something that was quite profound, I think. And I thought I'd have to go in and say something about this. Because you said that there's satellites up there that can see for millions and billions of miles away. Why don't they just put a camera on the other side of it, take a picture of the Earth, or turn it around?
Right.
Did I hear you right?
Yes. Why they don't do that?
So what's the Himawari 8 doing?
We talk about Himawari 8 for. That's not...
It's a 9 now, I think. It's Himawari 9, I think,
Yeah, let's talk about our technology. We're the most advanced in the world.
Obviously we're not, are we? Because Japan's got a satellite taking a picture of the Earth, but you want to deny that. You just said, why don't they turn the thing around and take a picture of the Earth? There's a satellite up there dedicated to taking a picture of half the Earth every 10 minutes, but you want to deny that.
Yeah, but that's not real. That's not real. It's not denying it. It's not real.
Oh, so you say, why don't they turn the camera around or turn the satellite around and take a picture of the Earth? And now there is one taking a picture up there. You just say, oh, that's fake. And you think that's an honest position to have, Kimo?
Of course it is, because it's not real.
Mark, it's easy to lie to you, mate. It's easy to lie to you.
It is, Scotty.
Very.
You're in Australia, Scotty, yeah?
Yes.
Right, I watched...
Right, no, hold up, Kimo, because we've got someone in Australia. Right, so it's your summer now, Scotty, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
No, it's their winter. They're still in December.
It's their summer.
It's summer.
Well, it's December.
Yes, their summer is 6 months longer
so they have winter in July.
Yeah, because they're on the other side of the globe, Kimo. Don't you realise it?
It's snowing in July, Scotty.
No, don't.
No, it's summer. It's definitely...
No. Do you have snow in July?
No.
Well, only certain parts of Australia has snow. It's quite hot usually most of the time.
Yeah, when do you have which countries have snow and when do you have it?
I wouldn't have a clue because
which cities, not country cities, which cities?
I wouldn't have a clue. I've never seen
I don't think any cities in Australia have snow. The high places might do.
Yeah, there is some snow, but it's pretty sparse. I've never personally ever touched snow in my life.
Have you ever seen snow?
Never seen or touched it.
That's crazy.
I know, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think any places get snow in Australia, do they, Scotty?
Oh no, some places do, but it's very remote.
Well, I'm going to Google snow in Australia and have a look now.
I think high places might get it. I'm not sure if any town does it. I might be wrong. But how many at the height of your summer, Scotty? At the height of your summer, midway between the summer length. How many hours of sun do you get a day?
Jesus. Well, right now, the sun's going down at about 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock.
So what's that, about 18 hours?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy right now.
Right, so Kimo, if Australia's getting 18 hours of sun,
right,
how does the sun get from there, Australia, on a flat Earth, and give us 8 hours of sun in the winter? Because if it's in the sky in Australia for 18 hours,
we get the sun. We can see the moon.
Kimo, can I just finish my point, please? If it's in the sky for 18 hours in Australia, then there's only fucking 6 hours left in the day. So there's not even 8 hours for the sun to get back to us and give us 8 hours of sun. So how does that work?
The sun would speed up. What are you on about?
Oh, so now you're saying that when has anyone reported on the Earth, they've looked at the sun in the daytime and see it speed up?
Yeah, it must do.
Well, it doesn't, Kimo, does it? Not one person has ever reported that. Because someone had fucking noticed it. What do you mean? So you're telling me if you look up in the sky and you see the sun zipping across the sky, no one's going to say nothing about that? Come on, Kimo, for fuck's sake. Scotty, have you ever seen the sun zipping across the sky?
On meth.
Yeah, on tripping, you must have seen about 4 suns, Scotty.
No, but to be honest, looking up there...
Well, Scotty, you answer it then. How does that work, Scotty? Because we know that the sun, when the sun's in the sky in Australia, it's dark in the UK.
Well,
so how does it give you 18 hours of sunlight?
The sun must change speed. That's the only thing.
It doesn't fucking change speed. Give me one account of that happening, Kimo.
We don't know what the sun is. Nobody knows.
So no one watches the sun, chemo. Is that what you're telling me now? No one looks at the sun.
Yeah, I'm saying nobody. We're only here in England. We don't do observations all around the flat
What are you on
Earth.
about? I've took pictures of the sun during the day, chemo, and I can guarantee you it doesn't speed
Yeah,
up.
it's probably a different speed in Australia than it is to here.
Oh, fuck off.
Well, the reality is, looking up there, it doesn't prove that down here there's curve all this motion. So,
Yeah, but
you know?
Scotty, how does it stay in the sky for 18 hours? There's only 6 hours left in the day, Scotty.
You're acting like we're scientists, Mark.
He's got to travel all the way from Australia. He's got to travel all the way to Australia, back in time, 2 hours, to give us 8 hours of daylight in the UK.
Well, you're not a scientist. You wouldn't know that.
I'd say the sun
What, so I
contracts
don't know
in and
it
out.
gives us 8 hours of sun in the daylight. Is that what you're saying now, Chemo?
No, I'm saying you don't know how the sun works. Nobody knows how it works.
Well, we do. Scientists do know how the sun works, and no one's ever said. No one's ever said, Chemo. No one's ever said it zips across the sky.
Listen, we don't know how the sun. We don't know what's powering the sun. We don't know. You know, we can't really make good observations.
All right, give me one account then. Give me one account of anyone saying I see the sun zip across the sky. Can you give me that then, please?
What do you mean zip across the sky?
Well, you're saying it goes faster, so someone must have
Well,
seen
it probably goes
faster.
higher then, higher, and you know.
Well, what's higher got to do with faster? That give it
because
more,
if it goes higher,
if it went higher, it'd have to go further travel, wouldn't it, Chemo?
No, it covers more ground, so it can go in shorter increments.
What are you on about? If it goes higher, it's got to do more distance.
As a scientist, I'm not a scientist, so you're asking the wrong person.
Well, exactly, and the scientists never say the sun.
No, they're
across
scientists
the sky.
are liars.
Or goes higher up, Chemo. So
Yeah,
what scientists you on
we've proven
about?
already that those scientists are liars, and everything in the textbooks are lies. Kent Hovind has already proved that. He went to jail.
Point me to a scientist then. Point me to a scientist that says the sun goes higher up and it also goes faster across the sky. I'm going to go on mute for 30 seconds.
Again, look,
I'm going to go on mute for 30 seconds for you to produce that evidence then.
Well, no, because these things are up in the air. They're up for discussion because they won't tell us the truth. That's the whole point. We don't know how the sun makes it from there to there, but there obviously is a reason, and the scientists are not telling us for a reason. That's the reason.
See, Mark, what you need to understand, if say the Earth is flat, which we do believe, then the lie is so big that how can we know how the sun and moon work yet? You know what I mean? Like we're still trying to figure that out.
Quite easily, Scotty. How old are you?
27.
27. In your 27 years, have you ever seen the sun go faster in one part of the day than another part?
I haven't personally measured it ever, really. You know, I haven't thought about it.
Right. Have you ever heard anyone else say that has?
Right. I just said we don't know. Who knows if it goes higher?
Chemo, don't you understand this? There's people that spend their entire lives watching the sun, you fucking idiot. If it was going faster, if it was going faster in parts of the day than other parts, it wouldn't that'd be reported.
Yes, but you have no one reports the midnight sun unless you actually research.
Well, it must be light somewhere on a flat Earth, Chemo, mustn't it?
Nobody would know about the 24 hour.
It must be light somewhere on the Earth,
sun, the midnight sun, unless you actually research properly.
Chemo. So now you're saying then on a flat Earth that at one point during the night there's no sun anywhere on the whole flat Earth. So you're saying the whole flat Earth is in dark?
Half at the time.
Well, so the sun is always in the sky somewhere on a flat Earth. For that to happen, it must be in the sky. So half the time it's in the sky, half the world sees it. The rest of the time it's in the sky, the other half of the world sees it. So everyone that is always under watch. So if it was moving faster, then it wouldn't be fucking people would notice that, wouldn't they?
Well, I've just said then, hasn't I? I said it goes up and then it must change size as well.
It doesn't change size. That's another thing that it doesn't do, Kimo. Why are all these things that you supposedly say it does, that it doesn't?
Because how do you explain it on a flat Earth?
Well, it can't be. That's what I'm saying. It can't be explained, Kimo. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, the weakness of your model, Kimo.
My project is that it's
the weakness of your model, Kimo. Nothing can be explained.
Well, then there must be another answer then.
Yeah, it is. We live on a globe, Kimo.
No, that's not the answer.
Why? I live on a globe. It's pretty far-fetched.
Because you don't like it.
Not because I don't like it, because it's not a ball. It's not spinning. So there has to be.
Well, it is a ball, then it is spinning, Kimo. So take your medicine. Take your medicine, son.
That's the wrong answer, Mark. If you think that you're spinning, you need to take
if it's the wrong answer, why does everything work on the globe model then, Kimo?
It doesn't work.
Why can we explain?
Why
can we explain the 18-hour sunlight in Australia?
No, as Matthew said, there were different models, and they tried to look for the best one.
So right then. So we just chalk that down to you don't know how it works on a flat Earth then.
No, I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Well,
Mark,
can
do you
point
like
me to one
anal
scientist who
probing
does
aliens?
them, please?
Science should deal with technology, and that's it.
So you can't point me to one scientist. Why are the flat Earth scientists stupid?
No, the baller
Well, if the
science.
flat Earth scientists aren't stupid, why can't one of them explain reality, Kim?
Cost their
They
job.
can. It's just that they wouldn't be
Right, Scotty, can you
represented
point
by
me
the
to one
mainstream media.
scientist then? Can you point me to one scientist then, Scotty, that
Well,
that
it
tells
depends
me
what
how the
we-
sun works on a flat Earth model, please? How you get 18 hours in Australia and we still get 8 hours in the UK? We're on the other side of the world.
Well, the
It
last
goes higher, Mark. It goes higher.
And if you go higher, what
Yeah, the more that it
will that
covers,
mean to me
the
getting
more
closer,
the higher you
Chemo?
go, the more you cover
If
more.
you go higher,
land.
Chemo, you don't get closer by going higher.
No, you cover more land with light. Is what I'm saying.
How do you?
You only need light, sunlight. Sometimes there's sunlight, but you don't see the
What?
sun.
So you're saying that? How? Yeah, but how is it in the sky? I'm not talking about light. I'm talking about sky. Actually,
I'm
in
talking
the
about
sky.
light.
So
You're
you're
talking
saying
about
the sun is
actual
massive,
sun.
then, Kim?
I'm talking about the light. So the light.
No, it doesn't work like that, Chemo.
Yes,
like,
it does. It's
no,
not
it
about the
doesn't.
actual
What are you
sun,
about,
Mark.
Chemo? Chemo, look out the window. I can see the
Got
fucking
ya.
sun, you idiot. I
I've
can
got
see
ya.
the sun, you idiot. So it's
I've
in
just
our
got you,
sky.
Mark. I've just got you.
What are you on
Because
about?
it's not
You
about
just
the.
got
It's
me.
about the light and how much light
Well,
is.
so you're saying now then? So you're saying now then the 18 hours that Scotty sees sun, it's not actually the sun that's in the sky. It's just light.
Sunlight. Yeah, sunlight.
Right. So where's the sun now then, Chemo?
It's in the sky.
What sky?
What do you mean in what sky? We've only
Well,
got one sky.
Okay. So it's in the sky in the UK, yeah?
Yeah, but not everybody
Is
can
it in
see
the sky? Is it in the sky in Australia?
No.
Right. How many hours of daylight will we get?
So that now is zipping.
So how many hours of daylight will we
Hold on.
get
In order
the
for that,
UK?
in order for Australia to see that now if it's winter now in Australia, like you said, the sun will be far
Well,
away.
it's not. It's summer. It's summer in Australia.
Oh yeah, summer. Sorry. If it's summer there, they won't. Well, the sun here now is further from us than it is in the summer. So when we have our summer, it's closer to us.
It weren't even nothing what I was talking about, Kimo. How many hours of sunlight do we get?
Now we must have about. Well, it depends where you are, right? If you're down south, then you'll have less. Then if you, if you're in the north, sorry, you'll have less than if you're down the south.
Right. So how many then in the UK?
Well, like I said, it depends.
So you don't know how many hours of daylight we have in the UK?
It depends, doesn't it?
Well, depends on what?
Well, it's different. Like I say, if I was
Well, so
down
you're
in
telling me
Brighton-
that someone in London has a considerably more amount of time in daylight than someone, say, in Scotland?
in Scotland they will have less. They will have we will get more light down the south than they will have up north.
How much more light?
I don't know, a little bit measurable.
Well, of course it must be fucking measurable. If it's more, it must be measurable.
Yeah, I don't know how much more.
What, minutes more?
I'm not a scientist, man. I
So
tell you.
no considerable amount of time then, because that would be noticeable, wouldn't it? Because say, for instance, the sun was set at 7 in Scotland, and then in, say, London, it didn't set till midnight. You'd notice that. People would notice that.
The 7 o'clock in London.
People would notice that,
would
wouldn't
be
they?
lighter than 7 o'clock in Scotland.
Right, so we've established that you don't know anything about how daylight works in the UK, Kimo.
Yeah, it would be.
Right, so see, you was very astute there, Scotty, when you said there's loads of stupid people about. I gather you do know how the sun works, daylight works in Australia, Scotty, yeah?
Light distribution, Mark. That's
I
what
don't
it's
know,
all about. It's about light.
You don't know how daylight works in in Australia either, Scotty. Is that what you're telling me now?
It's always darker in Scotland than it is down south.
So, because Kimo's just proved he don't know how it works in the UK, and he's past 18 years of
You
age.
all want to ask me all the questions.
So for 18 years of age, he's been walking around with his eyes shut. You're 27, you said, didn't you, Scotty?
Yes.
Well then, Scotty. So what happens when the sun goes out of the sky, Scotty?
Pardon?
What happens when the sun goes out of the sky in Australia? What happens?
Well, it keeps going around the earth. What do you think happens?
What happens to the sky, Scotty? What time of day do we call that?
You watch it on
Kimo, can't you be quiet for 2 seconds while I ask Scotty a question? I mean, you say you teach people. Would you have this in your class? Someone quit interrupting the teacher.
Well, we're not with students now.
Well, you are. We are. I'm trying to teach you, Kimo, and it's obvious you need a lot to learn. You don't even know how the daylight works in your own country, Kimo.
No, you don't know how.
Scotty, what time of day do we call it when the sun goes out of the sky?
What do you mean? Sunset, you mean?
No, because the sun's still in the sky, isn't it? What happens when the sun goes? All right, you don't want to say, look, Kimo, I'm going to have to send you out of the room in a minute.
Goodness sakes.
Can you just be quiet for 30 seconds while I ask him a question? It's not hard, is it?
Go on.
So what happens when the sun goes? You can't see the sun no more. We won't call it a sunset because obviously it don't set on a flat plane. What happens to the sky, and what time of the day do we call that sky?
Dusk.
What happens to the sky? Chemo. I'm going to have to ring your mum up.
For goodness sake, get on with it, man. Come on.
Oh, I can't help it. He's being awkward and a bit slow, isn't he? You can understand that. I try and coax it out of him. He doesn't want to say it because he exposes his model. Now, just let him carry on, please. Now, what happens to the sky, Scotty?
What do you mean? When the sun's moving away?
What happens when the sun goes completely out of the sky, Scotty? What time of day do we call that? And what happens to the sky?
Night time?
Well done, Scotty. Well done, mate. Give us your book. I'll give you a star for that.
Well, I'd rather
yes, it's the night time. So that proves that what Chemo just said about being light in the sky is rubbish. When the sun goes out of the sky in your local area, your vicinity, or your country, whatever you want to call it, it goes dark. So that means that when Australia has 18 hours of daylight, the sun can no way get all the way across to us and give us 8 hours of daylight. It's impossible.
Unless it's higher. When it's higher...
Going higher doesn't make any difference, Chemo.
Well, of course
How does it? It'd have to be massive. Australia's 7,000 odd miles away from the UK.
No, it goes higher.
Yeah, but it's not. It's in our sky, you fucking idiot.
Of how it works.
But it gets higher and hotter and produces more heat. You don't understand that, do you?
Oh, yeah, but we're not talking about light. As I've just proved, it has to be in the sky, Chemo. So are you saying now that when we look at the sun in the UK, when it's in our sky, that it's not really in our sky, it's thousands of miles away on a flat plane over Australia, near Australia? Is that what you're saying? Is that how the flat Earth works?
No, not at all.
So how high in the sky is it then? At midday in the UK, like flat earthers say it's 3,000 miles away. How far away is it then?
Again, I'm not a scientist.
So you're not even going to conform with the latest...
It's between 3 and 10,000 miles.
Between 3 and 10,000 miles. So it's nearly the same distance as it is from here to Australia.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's under the dome. That's the most important thing. So unless
we're not talking
how high
about a dome, are we? Are we talking about how...
Well, you're asking about measurements.
In a simple experiment, when we're talking to an Australian, how the sun is in its sky for 18 hours a day, and then it also gives the UK 8 hours of sunlight on a flat Earth. I'm just trying to work out how that is possible. You say I'm not a scientist and I can't explain it. I've asked you to point me to someone who is a scientist who can explain it, and neither of you can do that. Well, but I can explain it. I can explain it perfectly on a globe.
That scientist will get attention or will get funded.
This doesn't prove a ball. This just proves that you're just.
No, it does prove a ball, though. It does prove a ball. It's one of the jigsaw. It's one piece of evidence that proves.
You're trying to be a smart ass. That's all.
No, I'm not trying to be a smart ass. If I was trying to be a smart ass, I could rip you to pieces, but I'm not doing that because it's Christmas.
This doesn't.
It's Christmas. I'm in good spirits today. I'm in good spirits. I've had a good Christmas.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much crack have you smoked today?
About 0.5, Scotty.
So 1, 0, 10. You mean?
No. How does -5
Come
equate to that?
Man, come on, you.
No, well, don't smoke. I don't smoke for one, Scotty. I'm just about to vape some weed, if that's any good to you.
So you shoot up in a needle then? Okay.
No, I don't like needles, Scotty. Hate needles.
Why do you always put it in your asshole?
Why do you always have to take it down the gay one, Scotty?
Scotty, why are you always projecting?
I mean, I've been talking to you for less than 15 minutes and you've always brought arseholes into it already. What the fuck is up with you?
The first scary thing I heard was you saying gay and talking about arseholes.
You're projecting, Scotty.
Oh, I'd have to disagree. I never say any gay thing. I don't know what hang out your fucking reviews. Everyone knows I'm straight as a peach.
Everyone knows you're what?
Straight as a peach.
No, you ain't, Scotty, man. You talk about gay sex every time you chance you get.
Oh, did you just mention gay sex, Mark? Oh my god, what are you talking about?
I couldn't help it. I see your picture, Scotty. You just look so gay, man.
Oh, thanks a lot, mate. Well, at least my picture's real.
At
least my picture's real, bitch.
Oh, Scotty, man. Yeah. Jack and have a rib on the Barbie, son.
That's not. It's shrimp, man. You got it wrong.
I said rib. I said rib, boy. Rib. R-I-B. Rib,
shrimp.
boy. Rib.
It's shrimp. It's shrimp, moron.
Yeah, I know it is, but you can fucking rib as well, you idiot.
Yeah, but you love cock. To be honest about it.
So you don't put barbecue ribs on your fucking barbecue?
Never, not once.
Fuck off, Scott. You're lying to me now. Now I know you. Now I know you're gay, man.
Nonsense.
Well, what else you want to talk about now? Expose that gap in your model, Kmo.
No, nothing's been exposed. All you're trying to be is a smart ass.
I'm not trying to be a smart ass. I told you. I only come in here because you made a quite a profound statement. You said,
yeah, about the satellites.
I wish they'd turn the satellite round and take a picture of the Earth. And there's one up there dedicated to doing that.
So why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing it?
And I think that's really profound.
Don't you think, Mark? Don't you think that England is capable of sending up a satellite?
I think England does send up satellites. Or has been involved in sending up satellites.
Hold on. Yeah. You think we're not capable or we are capable?
We are capable. We was involved in a satellite. We was involved.
Why do you keep on relying on China for satellite images?
You're going to ask me a question.
No, I'm not finished. I'm saying, why do you rely on satellite images from China when you said England is capable when we don't have one? Why?
China? Who's said it? I haven't mentioned China. Why'd you mention China?
You just spoke about the Himawari thing.
Oh, so that's Chinese, is it?
Well, what is it then?
Japanese. I know they've both got slanty eyes, but that's a bit racist.
How is it racist? They're the same people.
Chinese and Japanese are not the same people, Kmo.
Oh my goodness! So what? They're not the same people. They're both Asian.
They're from two different countries. How can they both be the same people, Kmo?
They're the Far East, Mark. You know nothing.
Well, what's that? What? So Russians are Chinese as well now? You're saying that? So Russians are Chinese.
Is Europe.
What?
Russia is Europe.
Right. So
Eastern
it's not
Europe.
East then.
You all don't know your countries and anything and where people.
I don't know. You just said
we live in a
Japan
pool
and China are the same
very
people,
much.
They're Asians. They're all the same, just different.
So all Asians are all the same then, are they?
Obviously.
Right.
So anyway,
you claim you do Russia.
You just said Russia was Chinese. Now, how ridiculous is that?
No, I didn't. You said that, Kimo.
But anyway, the point is, why do you rely on these countries when England has the capability of doing this, but you don't?
Why would we send up a satellite to take a picture of England?
No, of space, of the Earth.
No, that's not what it's there for. Why would we take a picture to send up a satellite to take a picture to say the English Channel and the North Sea? Why would we do that, Kimo?
So the Queen has a picture that she can print on her toilet paper when she wipes her asshole.
Why would we do that, Kimo?
I don't know what you're on about.
Well, why do you think the Japanese satellite's there?
I don't know. Well, we should have our own satellite.
But why do you think the Japanese? You don't even know why it's there.
Well, I have no interest in what Japanese are doing.
But you just said, wouldn't it be nice to have a satellite taking a picture of the Earth, and there's one up there, and now you're not interested in what it's doing?
Yeah, but not from Japan, from England.
But that's what I just said to you. Why would we send a satellite up to take a picture of England?
Are you being stupid? Or you want a picture of Earth?
Well, that satellite that's up there isn't up there to take a picture of the Earth, see? Because you don't know, because you don't want to know what the Japanese satellite is doing, then I can't really tell you, can I? Because it's pointless. If you want to remain ignorant, that's up to you. But you can't make statements about it that you're declaring you know what it does.
I find it odd that you want to rely on...
Well, the Japanese satellite doesn't take pictures of the Earth just to take pictures of the Earth, Kimo. That is a byproduct of what it's there for.
No, well,
you say you don't want to know. You say you don't want to know.
You need a craft that is specific for taking pictures of the Earth, and that's it.
Now, why would we do that, Kimo?
So we can clear up this nonsense and stop you talking your rubbish.
What nonsense that, Kimo?
That we live in a spinning ball. Show us that we're spinning. That's what we need to see. A spinning ball. You cannot provide us with that. So until you can provide us with a spinning ball, you're going
to believe anything you like.
Or your clever plug about 18 hours and blah, blah, blah.
We have pictures of a spinning ball. What's the matter with you?
We
have
pictures of a spinning ball. How can you have pictures of a spinning ball?
Hello.
Follow a British person who doesn't sound like a somebody trailer park.
Jeremy says
Britain does have satellites.
Jeremy says that we have video of a spinning ball.
I didn't say video. I said pictures.
How can you have pictures of a spinning ball? That's fucking shit.
Because one is taken every 10 minutes with Himawari, and every 2 hours with the Discovery, and
give me what I want, and I'll.
That's really believable.
Well, what reason do you have to disbelieve?
No. Stop, Scotty. Hold on. Wait, Scott. He's saying we have photographs of a spinning ball.
Yeah.
And I'm asking for a video of a
Of course you are, because you're unreasonable. That's fine.
Oh, that's unreasonable.
Of course it is. Yes.
Well, hold on a minute. Let me just.
What is video? What is video?
Can I just explain?
Tell me what video is. What is the difference between video and photograph?
You see this is what me and Scotty were talking about in the beginning, yeah.
That's a simple question.
No, but this is what happens, man. Just give us the spinning ball, for goodness sakes, and we'll move on.
But the point I'm trying to make is video is all it is a series of pictures. It's 25 pictures.
Why do you accept?
Hang on, let me finish. It's 25 pictures per second. Now, to know that the Earth is spinning, you don't need 25 pictures per second. You know, in the early days of cine film, we had, if you had an 8mm cine camera at home. Hang on. It would have run at, hang on. Let me finish. It would have run at 12 frames per second. Now, in the UK, we have video that runs at 25 frames per second. In the USA, they have video that runs at 30 frames per second. And if you play a video game, it'll be running at 60 frames per second. So all of these things provide us with video. Who's to say what is required, how many frames per second are required for us to be able to recognize motion? And I say, when you're looking at something the size of the Earth, having a photo every 2 hours or every 10 minutes, both of those are perfectly sufficient to be able to see that the Earth is spinning. That's
absolutely not. No chance, no way.
Absolutely.
That's a great experimental piece of evidence there.
Absolutely no chance, no way. That is definitely not what people have asked for. We want a video.
Well, I know it's not. And my point is because you're unreasonable. And I think I've just illustrated that you are.
You're fucking unreasonable.
It's okay then. Okay. Is 25 frames per second acceptable?
Look,
no. So normal standard video that you watch every day, that's not good enough.
So why don't you just say that then? That's why I said no, because you're trying to be another smart ass.
I'm not. All right, I've already said. Well, I listed them, didn't I? I said in the UK, normal TV is 25 frames per second, and in the USA, it's 30 frames per second.
Look, we talk about. This is the thing, you see. Nobody is a scientist here. We are standard people.
There's no science involved. The only dispute is about how many images are taken in a given period of time. That's your only problem. Yes, it is, because we're already taking pictures regularly. And what you're saying is they're not regular enough. I need them more regularly. So
I want one full rotation of the Earth, one starting point, and then 24 hours later, you see that starting point again.
And that's what we see.
Never ever have we seen it. I would sit up all night watching that if it was real.
Well, do it.
Everybody would. Millions of people would watch that if they knew it was real, but nobody watches.
You could do that now. You get a new image every 2 hours.
Image.
How would it be? Well, that's what video is. It's a series of images. That's all it is.
A series of images.
Well, that's what video is. That's what you're asking for. Well, I want
a smooth video that flipping looks at the Earth, records it spinning on a spinning ball, like you tell us, and that will never happen. I don't ever want to see a photograph again.
Let me try again. Is 25 frames per second the standard video that we see in the UK? Is that sufficient?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because that's what we used to.
Why don't you demand 30 frames per second like in the USA?
Because I don't understand it like that.
Or 60 frames per second, like you were having a video.
I don't care less about frames per second.
Why is 25 frames per second your standard?
Again, Jeremy, you're not listening.
I am listening. You're not listening.
What am I not listening to?
Why is 25 frames per second your standard?
I've just said to you, I don't understand these frames per second. All I know is that when I'm looking at a video or television or what looks like real life, I want to see it in real time. That's it. Whatever you want to call frames per second in real life, that's it.
Well, one image every 2 hours is.
That's not real life. That's not real time.
Yes, it is.
I don't see things 1 frame per second.
No, you don't see. You don't see any frames when you're looking with your naked eye, do you?
Right. So that's how I want to see it on video, or as good as.
Right. And video is a series of images, one after another. And I'm asking you why your standard is 25 and not 30 or not 12.
No, I don't know why you keep on asking me that.
Because your standard is unreasonable.
I just said
you can't even give me a reason for your standard. You can't even tell me why it needs to be that speed.
Because I want to see something in real time.
But it is real time. Doesn't make any difference at how many frames you have recorded in that time. It's still real time. Doesn't change that.
So anyway, look, that's the crux of the matter.
If I go outside and take a picture of the street outside my house right now and stick it in and display it as I'm doing it, that's real time.
Well, I want a moving image that is real time, if that's how you want to put it.
Right, but what would you see in a moving image?
Oh my God, a spinning ball.
Right, but would you though, Chemo? If you're sat there looking at it, what would you actually see? You won't see a spinning ball because it's
well. If I sit there for 24 hours, I would see one.
Right,
shot. You know, I see
but why not have a frame every 2 hours where you do see the movement? And how does having a frame every 2 hours? How is that not recording actually what's going on? Why do those extra frames? Why did they make it credible?
If we went
not
by
being
your
there
logic,
makes it not.
By your logic here, Jeremy, then we would say, why go to the cinema? Just take a photograph of all the actors and look at that. That should
No, we wouldn't.
Yes, we would. That's by your logic. That's what you want. And then here's another photograph of the movie, and here's another photograph of the movie.
You don't go to a movie.
Nobody would go to any cinema. Nobody would go to any cinema if you got one picture every 2 hours. That would
because you don't go to the cinema, and nobody goes to the cinema to watch one object, the movement of one object, do they? And that's what you're talking about.
And chemo, like Jeremy says, yeah, it'd be moving that slowly that you wouldn't notice any movement. The only way you notice movement, the only way you notice movement,
24 hours you would see.
The only way you notice movement, chemo, is to pick a reference point.
The further it's away,
why don't you let anyone finish, chemo? Why do you always interrupt people? You know what I mean? I don't understand that, chemo.
Because you're just making up things. You're making up things.
You're just making up things, chemo. Your standard is unreasonable, and we know it's unreasonable.
I've just proved it again with
because we know it's unreasonable because you cannot even provide the reasons for that standard. You have no reason.
You wouldn't go to the cinema
to inflict that standard of evidence upon this issue. You've just selected it because it's a standard which hasn't been met. That's the reason you're setting that standard. And if I could provide you with 25 frames per second video, you'd say, oh, well, I want 30 frames per second, or I want it in HD, or I want 60 frames per second, I want 4K video. Whatever we provided, it wouldn't be enough.
Before you even go to show me
every 10 minutes from one satellite. I'm nearly there. One sentence. One shot from one satellite every 10 minutes, and one shot from a completely different satellite looking at a different bit of the Earth every 2 hours is perfectly sufficient for us to be able to determine that the Earth is moving.
Well, no, it's not, obviously.
Well, obviously.
You would be here now.
Well, yes, you would.
Just like you said, just like you've said, nobody would go
Sorry, go ahead.
Nobody would go to the cinema and have one photograph and then another photograph. They would want to watch a motion picture, right? So same with the Earth. People would sit in the cinema for 24 hours if they knew and believed.
Well, that'd have to be speeded up then, chemo.
They would sit there for 24 hours watching grass grow, is what you're saying. They wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't. But we're not talking about a dramatic cinematic production. We're talking about evidence required to determine if the Earth is spinning.
No, and there's only one way to determine if the Earth is spinning, and that's to look at it, observe it.
Chemo, if you took a picture of Australia in one set of coordinates,
then the camera has moved, not the Earth. The camera has moved, not the Earth.
Well, with Discover, it does do, because it's
which is why you would need to be on the moon.
It stays with the lit part.
listen, you would need to be on the moon because you would need to be still. So the Earth would have to spin in front of you as you're looking at it. Because all what you're saying is like a photograph, then the guy moves, another photograph, the guy moves, another photograph. That's all
But
you're
you don't
showing
need to be on the moon. You only need to be about, I don't know, 15, 20,000 miles away, something like that.
How far is the Hawaii?
You need to be still.
I think it's about 300 and something thousand.
Or in one position.
Yes, because it's there. It's not there to fucking make you feel warm and cuddly.
Yeah, it is, Mark. It is. That's what it's all
No,
about.
it's fucking not.
All about the real people. That's what it's all about. And all you
Yeah,
people.
but the real
are trying to
people
say-
believe it's a globe, King. So that just proves you wrong, doesn't it? Because most people on this
Well,
earth.
if it was a globe, Mark, they would
Except we
show
live on a
everything
globe.
that we're asking for 10 times over.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't, Kimo. You know what you sound like? You sound like a little spoilt brat. That's what
There
you
would be
sound like,
no need
when
for
Jeremy
any kind of
produces
fakery
evidence
at
for you
all.
that you've just asked for 10 seconds before, when it gives you that evidence, you say, no, I want more.
Yeah, you do.
You know what I mean?
I
It's
just
ridiculous, Kimo. It's utterly ridiculous. No one in any walk of life would demand evidence and then when produce that evidence, say, no, I want more. It's ridiculous.
Well,
if
at the end of the day,
you could provide a
all we wanna-
reason for your standard, then I
would
could
love to
accept it,
shut
but
me
you
up.
can't.
You would love to shut Poncho up. You would love to shut A4 up. You would love to shut P up. You would love to shut all of us up, and you can't do it. I
No,
guarantee
because
that
you're
you would
dishonest,
love
Kimo.
to be
Kimo, we could
Yeah, you
fly
would.
you up in a rocket. We could fly you up in a fucking rocket.
No, you would like to
and
say,
you
look
could
at this,
see it
guys.
real
Here's
time,
your proof.
and then you'd say,
can't deny
no,
this.
yeah, but you've drugged us and it's a fucking video and we're all tripping or something stupid. You know what I mean? I couldn't give two fucks whether you believe it. I think it's good comedy value and I enjoy conversations with certain people.
Same joke over and over again. I don't think so, Mark. Chicken crossing the road. Don't think so. It's not that funny.
What are you on about? Chicken crossing the road still makes
it's
makes
the gift
people
that
laugh.
keeps on giving. It is that fun. I mean,
Yeah,
it
that's
just...
what I mean. When you say things like you say, sorry, Joe, I didn't mean this right. You go on.
No, go ahead, mate.
No, that's what the only reason I come in chemo is because you said something so profound and so stupid at the same sentence. You said why don't they turn the satellite round or put a camera on the satellite so we can have a picture of the Earth when there's a fucking satellite up there taking pictures of the Earth? You just deny it. That's the only reason I come in here.
Because there's no such thing as satellites.
When you can go out and fucking look at one going over your head and you're telling me it's not there, yeah, okay, Chemo, I'm going to believe you and I.
You guys are easily fooled, man.
No, you are, Chemo.
Yes, you believe this nonsense. Come on.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Nothing in reality even comes near to matching what you believe, Chemo. I mean, I can understand that you might not be able to explain certain things, Mo, but when you can't even understand or explain the most basic of things like why one part of the world gets 18 hours of sun, there's only 6 left in the fucking day. How does the sun get from Australia to the UK? And then you start saying stupid stuff.
Elevation.
Then you start saying stupid stuff like Scotland's having considerably less daylight than London. Fucking utterly ridiculous, Chemo.
No, Mark, you're just going on now because you've lost the battle, right? You've lost the war.
See, this is what I mean. This is what it just keeps on giving. When you say things like this, and it's just
Yeah,
so
because you
funny.
expect me to have all the answers, yeah? And you think, right, because I
One would
don't
be
answer...
nice, Chemo.
because I don't answer something, yeah, you think, well, yeah, that's the movement destroyed and stopped. I don't think
Right,
so.
Chemo, let's...
Well, what you've been asked is to provide reasons for your standard and your standard of evidence, and you can't provide it. That is something you should.
Well,
know.
I can only go by what made me
500
believe.
years to discover.
Well, the point is, this is the point. You see, this is what you guys seem to be missing. I can only go by what made me believe in the flat Earth in the first place. So whatever you're asking me, doesn't, I haven't researched or studied that to know, that doesn't make me think, oh, that's flat Earth. There's other things that.
I don't think that's an excuse when you.
So that's the point. So you're speaking to somebody else, and they have a different reason why they believe it's flat. Okay, so you're trying to ask different people, well, what about this? What about that? When they haven't really looked into that, and then you're going to say, well, that's can't be flat, then, can it? Well, that's not why I thought it was flat. So what you're talking about?
You should have looked into it.
So when you say something like, so listen,
you should know a lot about it.
Hold on. So when you say something like that, explain this. All that makes me think is, well, okay, so it's flat. How do we explain that? There has to be a reason. Doesn't mean it's a board. It just means.
We're not asking you to explain tectonic plate movement. We're asking you to explain something that you can go out and look at yourself.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's a board.
You know, in English summertime, reverse it. You know, in English summer,
it doesn't mean
you can watch the sunrise and you can watch it set. You can time how long it takes, and then just do a simple thought experiment. How can the fucking fucking sun.
And I think that's the new
places at the
tactic
same
by
time.
these agent guys is to ask questions on where you do, you know, because obviously everyone who
See
came
what
into
I mean, Kimo? This is why I know
no,
you're just a
no,
fucking
Mark,
troll,
no, Mark.
Kimo,
This
because you
is
never
what you're
listen to the
doing.
evidence.
No, Mark, I'm sorry, but this is
You
what you're
just
doing.
continue with your bullshit. You don't listen to anything anyone says. You just
try to. It's like you ask somebody who knows about physics, and then you ask them about biology.
What?
Right?
So you
or they know
can't count
chemistry.
them, Kimo. So you
they know
can't
about
count
chemistry,
them.
and you
you're
ask them
making
about
admission here
history.
in Google Hangouts.
Right,
That Kimo can't count.
There you go.
You
That's what I'm
can't
saying.
count.
You're asking me about geography when I'm more of a.
What about geography? I've asked you to time how many hours of sunlight you get in the UK during winter or summer. Is that hard?
Yeah, that's not the point, though. It's irrelevant.
Well, that was the whole point, Kimo.
No, because it can be explained in one way or another.
Well, can you explain it then?
No, I can't, because that's not what made me think it was a bore.
Well, so it can't be explained, can it? And I asked you to point me to someone.
You idiot. That's the whole point. That's how stupid
who could
you are.
explain it,
You think
Kimo.
because I can't explain it, then it must be a bore. No.
Well, can you point me to someone who can explain it then?
Well, go and research. They've been doing it
There
for
is
a long
no one.
time.
I've researched and there's no one, Kimo. So
No,
if you're a flat earther, can you point me to someone?
Poncho, he can explain it to you.
No, he can't fucking explain nothing.
He's here in the chat.
Well, is your go-to man, Poncho, yeah? Okay.
Well, you just said, can someone explain it to me? And he can explain it to you.
Well, we know full well Poncho can't explain it.
Well, there you go. Anyone that
Hangouts, he can't even explain his own name.
So what do you do? There you go.
He can shout. He's good at shouting.
No, because nobody answers his questions. You cannot answer his simple questions.
Well, his questions are stupid and malformed, aren't they?
Because you cannot answer. It's like a game.
Well, how does it change gear? Or, who's changing gear? That's his main question.
Right, and that's the kind of thing I'm trying to say.
Well, there are no gears.
Certain people
it's idiots.
have come from a different, perspective on the flat Earth. So, and then what I've realised is that what you guys do is look at what makes that person think it's flat, and then try to challenge them on something else.
All right, what makes you think it's flat? I'll challenge you on that.
Right, it's my number one contention, as you all know, was my super difficult question, level 10 question about the perspective and the distance and curvature. That's all it takes for me. Whatever else you're saying, it doesn't make any difference. Unless you can show me curvature, right, and prove that the Earth is curved, then that's it. And Rumpel spent nearly 2 minutes trying to explain it.
So what efforts have you made to determine that then?
Curvature.
Yeah.
Well, we've been looking at that curvature. There is no curvature. It's non-existent.
Right, but you know that people claim that there is curvature.
Listen to this. Something I thought of. When that guy who drove the fastest car in the world, he had to look for the flattest land for miles.
Right.
He couldn't drive that car on a curved surface. He looks at the wheels and the design of that car. There was no way that could curve or go downhill or uphill.
Yeah, we don't live on a large beach ball though, do we?
No, but I'm saying the land that they had to cover
much bigger than you're imagining.
No, you don't understand. I've seen that car, right? And
what, you're saying the car was too long and it would have grounded itself on the curve of the Earth? Is that what you're trying to say? I think that's what you're trying to say.
No, because in order to break the record, it wouldn't be able to go downhill. It couldn't be supported by. It'd have to be. It
doesn't go downhill. The curvature of the Earth isn't downhill.
Oh my God! So it goes uphill.
Elevation is not curvature. Why you guys always confuse the two and cannot separate is beyond me. You should understand this by now.
No, curvature means because we live on a ball. It's the same principle as any ball that you can hold. You're trying to change a ball of the
downhill is a difference in elevation, isn't it? You go from one elevation to another. If you're on the ocean, if you're on the ocean, you're at an elevation of 0. If you then sail 1,000 miles in any direction on that ocean, your elevation is still 0. You didn't go downhill, and that applies exactly the same on land as it does on the sea.
There is no curvature. That's why.
No.
You're right.
You wouldn't measure curvature with elevation. They're a different thing, as I've just said.
Yeah, decline. So you would measure the decline from the point where you're standing, if it goes up or down, right? The elevation or the decline.
You don't.
Yeah. Again, you're trying to confuse people, Jeremy. That's the problem. You're just trying to confuse everybody. Up and down. People know what a curve is. Everybody knows what a ball is.
Uphill and downhill are differences in the distance between you and the center of the Earth, effectively, aren't they?
No, according to you, if you're a ball, then the curve is everywhere.
So if something is flat and level, the distance between the flat and level surface and the center of the Earth is the same. There's no change
All
in the
I'm gonna say
elevation
is
of the constant curvature.
everywhere you go is flat. There's miles and miles of land that is flat, and there's a guy that's going to be doing a test in February, and it's going to prove to all of you that there is no curvature. And I want to see what he's going to say after that.
I want to see what you're going to say after that.
Kimo, you going to go? There's a few people going. You going to go?
Who's going?
Where is it?
Who's going, Mark?
Where is it?
I think,
Any flatties going?
I'm not sure. I thought Matthew said he was going, but I doubt if he will be going. I think.
Where is he doing it?
I don't even want to rent his name.
It's in Canada or
it's in Canada.
North USA. Somewhere.
I think Reds is going. Red's Retic's going. And I think Pure said he might be going. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly, but I think there's a couple going.
No, well, he's going to prove to you anyway.
But wait, if you drilled a hole from, like, say, one side of the Earth to the other side of the Earth, wouldn't that technically be going downhill?
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Yeah,
until you got to the center of the Earth, and then I guess you'd be going
up.
But you can't dig up.
Yes, you can.
I wouldn't even bother because they're just going to try and confuse you further. Everybody knows what you did.
Once I get to the middle of the Earth, then suddenly I'm going to be digging upwards.
How do you think the greatest?
So I dig down now. Do we go on technicality? So say that it was possible for me just to dig downwards right now, all right, and I'm on the bottom of the Earth. Apparently, I'm digging down to the point that suddenly I'll start digging up. So then my perspective will change, and then I'll have to I'll have to look up instead of looking down, and I'll have to.
No, I'm saying when you get to the center, you get flipped like that.
Well, I think you would. I think because there has to be a point where the
that's where your mathematics doesn't work out. So that's where your mathematics doesn't work out. Like I'm either digging down the whole time. I'm either digging down the whole time. Otherwise, it won't work. You know what I mean? Because I can't just start digging down. And then by the time I hit,
you come out first.
Let's imagine like this. Adam starts digging from his garden. Hold on, let me just say, Adam. Hold on, Mark. So let's say Adam starts digging from his garden to my garden.
Conversation.
To my garden. When he reaches my garden, he will be facing upside down to me. Yes.
I'll be digging up out of the earth like a zombie.
Up out of the earth, right? And if I was to start digging down, I would meet you in a strange position. Jeremy, Mark, you know that's impossible.
Yeah, like where have you ever encountered? No. Now give me an example of where that's ever happened on the earth where we can experience.
No one's fucking dug all the way through the fucking earth.
Give me an example of where we can experience that type of phenomenon.
Can you give an example?
Tell me. No, just wait. You're saying that we're living on this earth, so then I should be
ways to say it's impossible.
Can I said that we live on a round ball? Can you show? And then you've said this phenomenon where I'll dig down to the point where apparently I'm digging up. No, I'm trying to ask a question. So can you tell me where I can?
It's a hypothetical, Adam. We're just trying to imagine what would happen. But none of us know.
That's all it is. It's a hypothetical. You can't. There's no theory or actual method that you can accomplish that. There's nowhere.
You proposed it. You guys proposed it.
But that's what I'm trying to show you how crazy that thought is.
Spurs who came up with it.
It's crazy, but I suppose if you are someone
you're saying that I can dig down to the point that I'm gonna I'll have the shovel and then I'm gonna have to look up and dig up and then I'll be digging the dirt onto myself and the dirt will fall. Now listen. Let me speak. Come on, Jeremy, I'm gonna do you. Let me speak. All right, because at the point of me hitting halfway, then eventually I'm gonna be looking up and I'm gonna dig the dirt onto my head and the dirt will fall through me and then technically I should fall through my own hole that I've dug. I should fall out of the hole that I've already dug.
No, you'll fall back to where you came from, according to them. Once you reach the middle, you'll fall back
then I'm just
down.
That's what I don't understand. Like, where's this? Where can I experience this phenomenon?
You can't.
Is there any place on Earth except for the middle of the Earth that this phenomenon that you're talking about is going to occur? No. So technically, this is only hypothetical, and we'll never be able to really check.
It's not hypothetical because you can dig down in your garden right now. You can do that. You can experience.
Yeah, you can dig down to the center of the Earth right now. Off you go.
No, I didn't say the center of the Earth. I said you know what it's like to dig. No, I'm saying when you dig, when you dig, you know which way you're facing. You know you're not going to spin around at any point. No matter how far you dig down. I'm
not saying you would automatically spin around. I'm just saying
you are then. Well, that's the phenomenon that I'm trying to understand.
What you consider to be
right now. What will happen?
Well, my view is if you started digging, you'd be digging from your feet, so you carry on digging. You get to the center.
They carry on from digging, yeah.
Right.
And then eventually I'm going to hit the point
then
of
when you
middle-
got to the other
then
side,
eventually I'm going to hit the point of the middle of the Earth
So if
just
you're
to
not
say there
gonna-
was no molten core.
So why bother letting me talk then, Adam? You know what I mean? What's the point? You just interrupt me all the time. I mean,
Well,
fuck's
you
sake.
interrupted me too. Come on, let's be like reasonable here.
I think once you got to the other side of the centre of
Let's
the...
hear your answer. Go on.
Go ahead.
I just said that I think that you'd continue going through and you come out feet first.
So like that, but then your mythology would mean that I'm digging dirt onto myself. Like I'm digging.
Where's Scotty? Me and Scotty was saying people say the craziest things.
How is that even possible?
So
Because
if you start
once I
digging
know-
a hole,
listen,
so if you start digging a hole with your feet,
No, Mark,
why
listen
wouldn't you
to
come
me,
out with your
Mark.
feet first then?
Nah, Mark, listen to me though. Once I hit the 0 point of the middle of the Earth,
Chemo, look,
that's apparently where the gravity's pulling us. No, listen, it's apparently where the Earth, we're all being pulled towards the middle of the Earth because apparently that's the densest part of the Earth is the middle of it. So at that part where we cross through that, I wouldn't be able to stand like the way that you're saying. Like as soon as I try to dig that way, I'll fall back through to the point where I constantly fall in between the middle of the Earth. Like your mathematics are saying that I should be constantly falling into the middle of the Earth. I'll fall one way until the point where then I'll fall the other way because I'll get a constant. What would it be?
At the specific centre, I think gravity breaks down, Jim.
I'm not. I really don't know, but I think what I'm thinking is that once you cross that centre point, once you're the other side of it from it, with reference to where you started, I think then you're going to get pulled back towards it. So
Yeah,
I think what you saw as up and down would change once you cross that centre point, but that doesn't mean you would automatically flip over. You would remain the same orientation.
Well, I couldn't because I
would just feel like you were standing on your hands all of a sudden. I imagine.
Oh,
Really?
I get what you mean now. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I understand what you mean now by that.
But I wouldn't be. Then I'd listen there because you said now to feel like I'm standing on my hands, but I've already dug a hole. So there's a hole from the point that I'd started digging to the middle of the Earth. So then I would technically, I would fall back through that hole that I've already just dug. But then I can't
if the hole wasn't filled in,
because then I would be falling back through the. So I like that.
Well, maybe
point that you're saying is a point where I can never pass.
I really, I'm at the edge of where my intellect will allow me to speculate. I mean, I just don't know.
Mathematics you're giving to me, I've already analyzed it in my head, and it's saying once you hit that middle point from what you're telling me, I will never be able to get past that. I'll be constantly falling back and forth.
Yeah, but that's quite obvious.
Yeah,
if you've
maybe you would. Maybe you would. Yeah.
If you've got a hole,
where can I feel? Where can I experience that phenomenon here on Earth?
Well, hang on. I should
be able to see. I should be able to now get some type of an experiment where I can see this phenomenon that you're talking about.
But if we're going to start expanding the hypothetical, you'd have been crushed to death way before you got to the centre of the Earth because of the
crushed and boiled
the pressures involved anyway. So you know what I mean? We can't really expand the hypothetical. You know what I mean?
we tell up and down from gravity.
No, technically the Earth is made up of all elements that we've already got here on Earth. So there would be an element that would be able to use some type of a metal or something that we could use instead of ourselves, obviously, to then go experience this phenomenon.
I mean,
so we don't have to send a human down. We could send a machine to dig down to the core and make it out of metals that are able to maintain themselves at that.
They wouldn't be able to handle the pressure
and
that's in the centre of the Earth. I don't think, Adam. Nothing can.
Well, what metal's down there that's able to handle this pressure in the first place? Then
exactly. What is down there?
But I don't think anything.
What is it that you guys are proving that your hypothetical is impossible?
Well, no, your hypothetical.
Again,
that's your hypothetical. That's your hypothetical because you're saying that we live on a round ball. You say we live on a round ball, and we're just showing you how absurd that really is. Given the things that we've been taught about this Earth, given the things that we've been taught about this Earth, you're saying that it's got a molten core and whatnot. What is that made out of? How is that not being how is that not being affected by
your daydream?
How is that not being crushed and destroyed and evaporated?
Your daydreams about what might happen if we dug through the Earth is what you're presenting as evidence.
No, I'm saying that your mathematics don't work. I'm saying the mathematics provided to us by the education system.
It was a lovely story. Thank you very much. It's very exciting.
No, I'm saying that the mathematics provided by the education system tell us that the Earth's made of a molten lava of some type. Well, why isn't that, like Spurs Chemo tried to say, why isn't that being affected by these pressures?
Well, it is.
It is. It's being kept down.
What do you mean? It's what? Really? Explain.
Yes. Well, how do you think volcanoes happen when you get a fissure on the Earth's surface?
I mean, if you want to know,
you're the one that's grasping on the straws to keep this. You're the one that's grasping onto straws to keep this like lie going. In my opinion, it's a lie. So if you're going to grasp onto straws and tell children that that's what phenomenon is going to happen down there, and there's a molten core.
Every person on Earth is required to know the answer to any random question,
and then call it true.
Ask.
You can't regurgitate something that you think is true and you have no actual proof of it's the truth of it. Come on, that's not truth. That's your opinion.
What is my opinion?
That the Earth has a molten core that spins at the opposite rotation to what the Earth spins.
Well, no,
this molten core can.
There's evidence. To support
Where's the evidence?
Idea.
What evidence?
Where's the evidence?
Well, I mean, I don't have it on me. Do you want me to go and find it?
We haven't gone past.
I don't really want to go and find it. You can go and find it if you want.
We haven't dug. Yeah, we haven't.
None. There is no evidence, buddy. We've done this research and we ended up on
what comes
flat
out of volcanoes, Ed?
You've never researched anything. Don't talk.
No, haven't I? When I'm able to sit here and have a discussion to you about these things, and I'm the one that said that the Earth has a molten core that spins at the opposite rotation to what the Earth spins. So you're saying I didn't do my research, yet I'm the one that's providing the facts that you should have provided.
You've said all of that. I haven't made any of
what I mean. I'm providing the facts that you should have provided, and you're the one saying that I haven't done my research when I'm the one providing the facts for an apparent round Earth. So I know more about this round Earth than you do, and you're the one that grasps onto it saying that it's round to everybody else, and I know more about the mathematics behind it.
Okay, what research have you done to determine that there is no proof that the Earth has a molten core? Tell me your process of research.
Because what metal can sustain the pressure?
No, you're telling me your process of research, not your hypothesis. What is what process of research did you go through to determine that there was no evidence to support this idea?
Well, I looked into what elements could withstand.
Okay, where did you
the pressures?
Okay, where did you look? And how did
the education system? I looked through the education system. I studied many books that have been uploaded to the internet. I read them. I read scientific books to try and find some type.
Adam, please?
Yeah, name one.
I don't have them off the top of my head. I've done that research years ago. I've done that research years ago. You know, that's like asking me to regurgitate something that I don't believe in anymore.
Well, you're asking me to regurgitate things off the top of my head.
But you believe in it. You know what I mean? You believe in it.
Of course I do.
You believe in it.
Of course I do, but that doesn't mean I need to know any facts from it and be able to explain it to any random person.
I'm the one that's providing the details.
That's ridiculous.
You haven't provided nothing.
Standard of evidence to something either. It's another ridiculous idea that you guys set up. It's ludicrous.
All that you've accomplished is me not being able to provide an instant source for you to go fact check.
Well, I think that illustrates that you aren't telling the truth about the fact that you've done research.
How did I know that the Earth has a molten? Well, how did I know that the Earth has a molten core that apparently spins at the opposite rotation to the Earth?
That wasn't the subject of your research, was it? The subject of your research was if there is any evidence to support that.
It started off with what element could withstand that. Like,
you have to know that.
You know, they said what is the Earth made out of, and it says there's layers of crusts and whatnot.
Yeah, well, you're just waffling bollocks now. None of this is relevant to your argument.
What is my argument?
Your argument is that you've done research, and as a result of that research, you've determined that there is no evidence at all that the Earth has a molten core.
Yeah, I've determined.
Right. Well, what we're seeing is that appears to be a lie. That you don't seem to have done anything.
That can appear to be a lie.
Nothing you're saying suggests, supports the idea that you have done any research.
I did. I explained to you. I gave you a hypothesis about how we can dig to the middle of the Earth, and then apparently we're in limbo. Where apparently we get to the middle of the Earth and we will sit in limbo.
Or anyone that wrote anything that you've read. It doesn't seem like very comprehensive research.
You're not even letting me talk. You're not even let me talk. Like I was the one that
you're talking over me.
I was the one that put across
everything.
Because you're not letting me talk in the first place. Like I was the one that put across the digging to the middle of the Earth and then being in a state of limbo because you'll fall back and forth between.
Anyway, I don't
part of the Earth.
I don't.
I'm explaining the mathematics to you about something that you have faith in. You don't even know what goes on.
You haven't mentioned one bit about mathematics, Adam. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, you haven't said a single equation, you haven't even mentioned a number.
You're just rambling on about how you fucking don't think the Earth's crust.
You want me to regurgitate like EMC squared or pi or something like that?
Well, you're saying you've done maths. What maths have you done?
What maths have I done?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Involving this issue.
You said you proved this mathematically or something. You said, I can't remember your exact words, but you said
they've said
you'd analyse the mathematics. So
they have said, and when I say they, I'm talking about scientists. They have said in their books, which is they're going off mathematics, that the densest part of the Earth would be the middle of the Earth, the core of the Earth.
Right.
That's based on the mathematics that they've done.
Okay. And you've determined otherwise.
Jeremy, I don't understand what you're disputing. What are you disagreeing that?
They're trying to get me on a. No, what they're trying to do, Spurs, is get me on a technicality because I didn't say 2 plus 2.
I have absolutely no interest in arguing about this ludicrous hypothetical. It's pointless. I
dug you into a hole that you sat in limbo in. That's all I've done. Is
Adam, and to say there's no molten, and to say that there's no molten stuff at the centre of our planet is absolutely ludicrous.
Molten stuff.
Considering
whatever
you want to call it, if it's molten rock or molten metal,
it's like that. I know that. I need to know that.
So you're just going to interrupt me now, Adam?
Yeah. Well, you have a conversation with Spurs, Adam, and when you've done, I'll return.
To say that we had nothing, no molten lava or molten rock or molten metal at the centre of our Earth is ridiculous, considering that fucking volcanoes are happening all around the world.
Yeah, but Mark, how do you know how deep all that is? We've only dug so far. You can only experiment on
Chemo, do you drive?
I said dug.
Yeah, but do you drive, Chemo? Do you drive a car?
Yes.
So how do you know when you go and start that car that it's going to work?
I don't know. I just put key on.
You don't. You put your trust in other people that tell you that it will work. You have no reason to doubt that it will work because it's worked every other time up till now. So when people tell me, when people tell me that this is what's happening at the centre of the Earth, they spend their whole lives learning and practicing this fucking bit of
learning.
science.
How do they learn this? How do they learn this?
Hold on, Andor. I was just about to say something. How can they practice, Mark, on that when they haven't been down? I was just explaining to you that we've dug so far, we've done the experiments to see what is down there.
Yeah, roughly 8 miles.
Right, so if we can't go any further, how can you rely on experiments that talk about stuff that we haven't seen?
Well, they use things like, do you know what submarines do to detect, they used to, I'm not sure they use it anymore, but do you know how they used to detect things and how dolphins detect things underwater, Kimo?
Yeah, but they still don't know what's down there.
How do they do it then, Kimo?
They can get an image, they can get a sonar image maybe of what's down there, but they don't know what actually the material.
Right. So when they bounce, hold up. So when they bounce fucking radio waves or say something that's viscous, like a molten stuff, the things that repeat or the waves they get back are completely different. Say if it hit a solid rock and bounce back, that's how they can tell. They can't say. Hold up.
No, you're talking rubbish, Mark. They're not going to get information about under the Earth.
Okay, Kimo. So what is it then? So what do them sound waves represent then, Kimo?
Let me tell you this, yeah. When the Russians were digging down there, scientists had already made predictions of what they might find through their science research, what you're going on about, and it was completely opposite. They found water, they found layers, they found different sediments, they found all things that they couldn't explain, right? So that's the truth, and there's the report, there's the scientists who have done the real research, Mark. They've been down there 12,000 kilometers. They couldn't go any further. The tools were melting, right? So you're talking about things that people are guessing what is in the middle of the Earth. We can't even break through the crust. Oh.
So you're saying they don't know what it means when sound waves bounce off a thing?
Well, what I'm trying to tell you is whatever sound waves they were using.
What I would say is how are they able to determine that it's exactly the same type of mineral that they think it is? Just because it's showing the same type of data that molten lava has showed previously. Like there are elements that can show the same type of data.
I don't know the exact experiments. I'm not a geologist or whether scientist deals with the inside of the Earth. Fuck's sake.
Maybe you should watch that video, Mark, because it's a real video. Russians went down.
Have you watched it?
I watched it, yeah, and they said that the scientists.
What's the science called that tells the what's inside the Earth in the middle? What science is that? Kim?
What do you mean?
Well, you seem to claim to know loads about it, so what's it called?
I don't know loads about it. I watched
So
it.
you've watched one video. You've
wanna know
watched
more?
one biased video.
What it told. I can't remember it word. I haven't got a photographic memory, Mark. I can only tell you bits and bobs. But if you want to go and check it out, it will tell you.
What, you expect me to know it all? You expect me to know all this science, but you haven't got a photographic memory. What's that double standard there, Kimo, isn't it?
I've just told you I'm not a scientist, yeah?
Well,
These guys are.
Why do you keep making out that because I don't know a part of a science that's some kind of
Would it be like some type of paleontology?
Yeah, paleontology, that's probably what he's looking for.
Paleontology? Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Would it be? Well, that's the science that studies fossils and whatnot, and that's a part of digging.
Yeah.
Right, so no, but fossils aren't to do with the centre of the earth, are they? I think it's geologists.
Archaeology is the
Point. Well, they were getting down to they were digging towards the center of the earth and they found fossils. So wouldn't that be like a form of some type of paleontology? That's how they're telling how old these apparent fossils are and other things are based on how far you have to dig down and what elements they're in. That's to do with paleontology, isn't it? So I would say that it's a branch of paleontology.
Right, and I'm going to believe some fucking idiot on the internet, am I?
What is it then, Ma? Instead of just telling him what it's not, tell him what it is. You can't. So shut up. That's the whole point. We will tell you if you can't say what it is.
It's geology, isn't it? And seismology.
Yeah, I see seismology. That was the one.
Right. So why would he? Why try? It's not. This is not a test, is it? We're trying to come to like a middle ground here.
Kimo, when I don't know the name science, a part of science, or I don't know the answer to one of your questions, you laugh and giggle like a little school child and make out that you've made some massive victory.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You make out like
arguments.
Well, that's what you just done. No. Like in his defense, that's what you just done to me when I said paleontology, just based on me trying to think, well, what science would it be to be digging down towards the center of the earth? And then I thought about the fossils and whatnot, and I come up with paleontology off the top of my head. And then you and your companion decided to try and ridicule me with laughter. How is that any different from what he was doing to you and laughing at you? How is that any different? He asked you to correct it instead of laughing, and then
I
you had to
correct him. I told him it's geology.
No, you didn't.
I didn't. What? So I didn't say geology.
No, Jem Panda said that.
So I didn't say geology, Adam.
Geology.
Yeah.
Archaeology. Okay. That's historical science, yeah.
And you profess to teach English to Russians, and that's what your answer is.
What, to teach them archaeology? Yeah. To teach them paleontology.
Geology, the science of looking.
Geology, yeah. To teach them geography. Yeah. Geography. I'm supposed to do this, yeah. No. So you don't know what you're talking about.
So geology is geography now, is it?
So I'm saying, am I supposed to teach these lessons to them?
Well, so it's geology, geography now, Kimo.
What?
I'm saying, what are you talking?
Well, that's what you just said. I'm just trying to clarify. I don't want to misrepresent you.
The terms that you're trying to make us regurgitate are just terms that so-called scientists have given themselves to give themselves credibility.
No, Adam,
so when you say a paleontologist and archaeologist, these are people that think that they know what they're doing, but are actually taught in a way where they are regurgitating something they don't know is fact.
And when we tell you, that science has actually done the experiment going into the Earth, you go, no. What are they called? What do you call them? What kind of stupid question is that?
I call them bullshit artists because they say that they can't get past a certain point anyway.
Exactly. You're talking about the middle of the Earth, but we can't even get past crust. But you want to say that they can guess? Think about what you're saying, man.
How can they guess when they can't even get past a certain layer? So then, therefore, how are they supposed to determine what's past that layer?
Exactly. Look, and guessing what's behind that wall.
No response.
That's the point. When Adam brings up about that digging, going down, that's very relevant because it proves that this is a fantasy. You wouldn't dig, then magically turn around and end up feet first. Both of your heads were blown trying to answer that question. And that's what me and Scotty were talking about.
Even then, I tried to explain to them what would actually happen at that point. I tried to explain to them what would happen at that point based on the education system, and what we've all been taught is that we would be put in a state of limbo where we constantly fall through the densest part. Like, say we did create a hole through that densest part.
And then hold on, and then.
Adam, is there any planets fucking orbiting your head?
That made Jem Panda say, "Well, I don't care about the middle of the Earth now. I can't explain it," and that's where we're at now. So that was a good point. What Adam was saying here, because it made you fumble, and that's the whole point. You're like, well, you might end up this way. Oh, the middle of the Earth. Oh, it's hypothetical. What would happen if you dug down? You can't think. It's impossible to think that way. Nothing wouldn't happen, right? He wouldn't come out.
So what they forget is I've been looking into this topic for a few years now. So I've fathomed what would it really be like if I was on this apparent round Earth and it was round, and what would happen if I did, believe in it to a point where I could say it was true, and I've given it credence and still come back with what would it be? Something that's a regurgitation. That's all it is, a regurgitation. They have no facts to back up what they've said.
Hey,
what facts do you have, Adam?
What facts do I have, considering that nothing is really a fact?
What facts do you have that we live on a flat Earth, Adam?
Nothing is a fact.
Adam, how many years?
Hey, how are you? Who's this? Sorry.
4 years. 4 fucking years.
Bob, it's Bob.
Oh, how you going, mate? I'm just trying to talk to Mark Taylor and Jem Panda about some of the things we've been taught in the education system and how it seems very far-fetched.
I was just trying to figure out how many years you've been looking into it.
A few now, probably 5 years now.
Is it 5 years now? 4 years.
Probably 5 years, and I've still come to the point where none of these round earthers or whatever you just want to class yourselves as can give me any evidence or proof of their claims or anybody else's claims that have said the things that they have, that we're living on a round ball spinning at 1,000 miles an hour that has a molten core that's spinning at the opposite rotation to the earth, and they have no evidence or proof. Even proof would be suffice for me at this present time. Proof is just to compel the mind to assert something is true, and still I give them the time of day to try and explain it to me, and yet they cannot. So they can try to make me feel as dumb as they want to by saying, how many years have I looked into it? Well, I've actually woken up a lot of people to the fact that you can't tell me anything and can't tell anybody else anything that would back up your claims.
Yeah, I can't tell a fucking lump of seaweed anything either, Adam. I'm not going to lose any sleep.
That's what it all boils down to, Mark, is what Adam's saying here. Because you guys haven't provided nothing, all it is now is about waking people up. That's it. If you guys had something to stop us now, here, look, evidence, proof. We're not stupid to say, we don't believe it, we don't buy it. It's got to be real. If it's in real time, no bullshit, no tampering, we're going to believe it, right? But you haven't got that. Nobody has that. So what we can do...
And it was like 2 years ago. It was like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, a video. I mean, what was it? Let me get the wording of it up. The Earth polychromatic imagery camera. So that's the EPIC camera that is apparently on a satellite of some type, and it's projecting or sending data back to be recreated into an image of the Earth. Well, the first one that they released of Earth, the first EPIC image, people provided videos all over YouTube and other alternative sources, other social media websites, saying that they had input sex into that image. And now there's another image that's being that's come out, and if you look hard enough, you can still find sex within the image. New image. So
but that's just
So is this just a phenomenon that occurs all the time when you take a picture of the Earth from space? Clouds are going to spell out sex.
No, that's the only one. Well, I mean,
there's two now. The first one was already there's videos all over the internet. I'm sure
they probably used the same.
I'm sure once they've studied it like I did, it took me 5 minutes to find the sex within the clouds on the second one. I was recommended that yesterday. So yesterday I was recommended that on my Facebook page. It's had a NASA.
But they probably used the same cloud.
It took me 5 minutes of looking at that picture, and I said, "Oh, there it is, right there, sex spelled out in the clouds yet again." So is that just my mind trying to find this in the clouds, or is this NASA being fun, or is this a phenomenon that we should
a phenomenon?
It's also a phenomenon.
Jeremy, that's the problem. It's not even about. Adam is making sense. Yeah, he might be going on, but what he's saying. This is what I understand. You just don't like what he's saying. This is the difference. It's not that he's telling the truth, but you don't like the way he's saying it. You don't like what he's saying, and it affects you. That's all you're.
No, he's not telling the truth. Adam's known for not telling the truth.
What do you mean by that?
Just don't like it. That's all I can hear from you.
I mean, you're a liar.
Okay.
He's not lying on purpose. Even if I'm wrong,
he's not lying. So when he threatens to rape kids, is that a lie?
Oh, here we go.
You said he don't lie. I'm just asking you to clarify.
Am I threatening to rape kids, or am I threatening to rape cartoon characters?
When he
says
a character like children, that's
a character like Tom and Jerry or Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck or whatnot, they don't have any.
Chemo, no.
They're not intellectual. They're just someone's intellectual property. They're not actually
morally bankrupt now, Chemo.
Beg your pardon. No, I've talked you out of that right there.
I wasn't talking to you, Adam. I was talking to Chemo.
None of these characters that you talk about are apparently threatened. None of the characters that you talk about that are actually threatened. What's another name that you can say?
Exactly, Chemo. Your silence speaks volumes.
Daffy Duck. Who are you talking? Marty McFly. Are you talking about Marty McFly?
Like, who are you talking about that I threatened? Like, because you're taking this way out of context. You always fail to mention that the people that I have threatened are just characters. So I'm threatening Bugs Bunny, and you're so like worried about Bugs Bunny. That's a derailing. That's a derailing.
He knows that he's losing. Oh, it's a derailing, is it? Losing. He's a loser. Oh, we're losing now. We're a losing battle, Mark. Oh, that's what
you did just lose then, Mark. Mark, you did just lose.
To come and cut someone's throat then.
Let's see that I threatened to make Bugs Bunny.
Would you say that's
Bugs Bunny's very scared of me? I'm sure Bugs Bunny's very scared of me. I'm sure Bugs Bunny is very scared of me.
Winning people do, Kimo. Is that what side you want to be on? You're not interested in the truth. So
yeah, he's trying to. He's trying to derail what I've said.
He's denying that Adam ever said that. He's admitted he said that.
You're trying to derail what I've said.
You're denying that he said that.
Bugs Bunny. I threatened Bugs Bunny. Like, why are you taking that?
He's just fucking admitted saying it, Kimo. So you're going to deny he said that.
Threatened Bugs Bunny. Yeah, but I threatened Bugs Bunny. Threatened Bugs Bunny. Like, I'm sure Bugs Bunny.
Is that because you're a Christian, Kimo, that you lie so much?
No, I think, Mark, that you're just derailing and trying to troll.
Well, am I derailing? He's admitted saying it, Kimo. So am I derailing?
You're talking about flat Earth.
He's talking about truth.
You said that I threatened actual children. Like, you're saying that I threatened actual children. Like, what's Bugs Bunny's children? Does he have any children? Does Bugs Bunny have children?
Happy Duck? I mentioned a statement that Adam made.
What children? So you're talking about like the Simpsons.
I mentioned a statement that Adam's made, and now I'm derailing it.
I threatened Lisa Simpson. I'm sure that Matt Groening's very like worried about his intellectual property being raped by me. You know what I mean? Like, who you're saying that I've actually threatened?
Funny you always have a go at me, Kimo, but never.
Why are you taking it out of context to derail what I've actually said?
Children and cut people's throats.
You cannot debate or you cannot debunk.
Why is that, Kimo?
Just listen, Mark. You cannot debate. You cannot debunk what I've actually just said previous to that. What you had to do was bring something up that was relevant to try and derail.
Oh, I was just proving a point that you're a liar, Adam. So you do.
How am I a liar when I threaten? I've said that. How am I a liar when I just admitted to threaten characters?
So when you
took it out of context.
You really did want to come and fly to England and cut the guy's throat and rape his 3-year-old daughter. Then, so if it wasn't a lie, then
does he have I don't even know if he has a 3-year-old daughter. How do I know who he is?
Because he told you he had a 3-year-old daughter and asleep in the bedroom next door. And your words were,
a character like somebody. What's another person?
Cut your throat and rape your 3-year-old daughter. That was your words.
I didn't say I'm going to fly to England. When have I ever said I'm going to fly to England? No, I've never said I'm going to fly to England. It's usually an American. It's usually an American. So and like, really, how am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know who they are when they're a character? They use pseudonyms.
2 or 3 times.
They use like now you're taking it way out of context to derail what I've said previously. This is a form of like what would you say? An agent provocateur, really.
Mark, you're crazy.
Proving the point that you lie, Adam. I've just proved it once again.
No, I've just proved that you're an agent provocateur that's trying to use things out of context.
No, you haven't, Adam.
You're just stirring the pot, Mark. That's all.
So to prove you're a liar, to back my fact up that you are a liar, that somehow derailed the conversation, is it? Right.
The fact that you're taking things out of context and failed to add what was actually said.
Oh, so there is a context when you can say you're going to rape.
That was a pseudonym.
So there's a context.
They weren't using their real names. They had no real credentials attached to the name they were using. They were hiding behind that character like somebody off a TV show. So you're saying that I'm threatening like somebody that really doesn't exist because it's a character. It's a made-up character. They don't believe in what they're saying. They're using what would it be? A character.
Right, Adam. Right.
What do you mean, right? That is right. You're saying that I'm threatening Bugs Bunny.
No, I never said that. You said you're threatening a 3-year-old girl.
You're taking things out of context. Well, who's the 3-year-old girl? What's her name?
So you're a character then, Adam?
What's her name? Well, no, my name's Adam.
No, so you're a character?
No, my name's Adam. I don't hide behind any character. I have real credentials attached.
I can't see
I have real credentials attached to, I have accountability. I have accountability.
I see 4D.
I have accountability, yeah. And then when I'm asked my real name, I state it. My name is Adam Dwyer.
No, you're
There's real credentials attached to what I've said. There's real credentials attached to that. You're trying to derail what I've said again.
I'm not going to believe a proven liar, am I?
Agent provocateurs can never really beat me.
I'm not going to believe a proven liar, Adam. Don't be stupid.
Agent provocateurs. You lost the battle a long time ago.
4 years. 4 fucking years.
You're grasping at straws now, buddy.
Am I? Okay.
I said 5 years now. Shouldn't you go on to a new mockery? I've said 5 years now. Shouldn't it be a liar
in here? Come in this room. You tell people.
Come in this room. What room?
You tell people it's spinning. You're the biggest liar. Go in.
Come into room.
It seems like you're getting very angry because you cannot actually add anything to the flat Earth debate.
Nothing. He's lost.
If there was to to be a debate. That is, it's really just discerning and dissecting the false information that's being presented to us about apparent round Earth, and then telling people that that's not true. That's not fact. And you're the one that's now trying to provoke people like an agent provocateur.
Right.
Usually, people that act the way that you do are either like what would it be, psychotic, or playing a role. So you're either psychotic because you cannot even understand your own logic, let alone somebody else's. So you're trying to question somebody, but you don't even understand your own logic. And then trying to provoke them when you've like went into your own little psychotic rage.
Well, when he fails to understand, he has to go. He loses the plot. That's what I'm saying. We're asking him questions that are causing them to think. Well, they can't think. They're unable to think the same things that they would never usually say. You're bringing out the stupidity in people. How do you explain this? They come up with this kind of answer. Well, come on. And that's where they're at. And then when they realize what they've said, that's why they say. That's why Jeremy's gone. That's why a lot of people will come. It boils down to name calling, because when they realize how stupid what they've just said, they think, oh my God, I need to get out of here, right? Because I think, how did I just say that? That didn't make any sense at all, but I had to say something, right? So that's exactly, Jeremy said, I don't know, maybe this, maybe that, gone, because he realized he's made a mistake. Mark's realized, well, maybe feet for, oh God, you're an idiot. You guys are fools. You guys are silly, right? And that's where we're at now. They've got nothing, no more to rebuttal. Nothing else to, no other comebacks, and all they have is ridicule. So, we're going to keep that flat earth torch alive, and all we can do, like Adam here saying, just spread the word and just let people know. That's it. That's all we can do.
Come on, Kimo, you don't mean that flat earth torch.
Well, Mark, like I said, you've got nothing left but name calling, right? It's clear. What name
have I called you then, Kimo?
Well, no, not necessarily me, because that
I haven't called you any names then, no?
No, I don't really pay attention. It doesn't even bother me if you do.
Your statement about that's all I've got left name calling is wrong then, isn't it?
No, it isn't, because that's all you seem to have left.
I haven't even called you a name. You just admitted that, so it must be, Kimo. Thank you very much for admitting you was wrong again.
We haven't finished yet, Mark.
No, true. And if you can write down the names I'll call you, please do.
Well, we'll see, Mark. We'll see. See where it goes, right? Because you know that this truth will not be stopped. And I think
then present some evidence then, Kimo. Present some evidence of a flat earth. Present just one piece of evidence for a flat earth. I'm willing, and I will go on mute, and I will give you the stage. The audience is here. The lights are dim. Go on, present your evidence. I'm going to go on mute.
Yeah, that's the thing. You see, the stage is set, but it's not for you, Mark. This is not. You won't be able to even handle the reality when it comes out anyway. If it takes you this long, think about it. If it takes you and others this long to come to kind of any understanding, even when it comes out, you're still going to be denying it, because that's the position that you would rather hold. So it doesn't matter even if somebody did show you a picture of a flat earth, you would deny it. Of the ward, you would still deny it. And
I'm just curious if people like Mark Taylor are going to say sorry or be forgiveful, or no, they're going to be even worse. There'll be more. When
it all gets revealed, if it once it gets to a point where they have to admit that they don't know, scientists don't know what it really is and whatnot. I'm just wondering if people like Mark Taylor will still grasp onto straws, or if he'll apologize for his actions against people like myself. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, so I've got to interrupt you there. I'm sorry, I've got to interrupt you here, because you're derailing the conversation. The idea for me going on mute was to give Spurs a chance to present one piece of evidence.
I'll get lost, Mark.
So you're not going to produce any evidence then, Kimo?
Have you provided any evidence?
So you're not going to produce none, Kimo?
No. What you're trying to do now is push the burden of proof onto somebody else.
Piece of evidence, then,
you're trying to push the burden of proof onto somebody else. Outstanding claims come with the burden of proof, and you've stated that we live on a round ball, and you believe in this so much that now you're going to try and push the burden of proof. I haven't stated anything, Adam.
You're talking about
if you pay us millions and billions of dollars, like NASA and other space agencies have received, then I'm sure that we can provide you support evidence.
Because you've been moaning.
If you give us the money that round earthers have received, can you let somebody speak? Or they're going to do an agent provocateur type of rhetoric?
You're just going to carry on talking, are you? Yeah.
It's more agent provocateur rhetoric.
You're going to carry on talking.
Well, like I said, the outstanding claims. There we go. The outstanding claims.
Mark, when you say proof, what kind of proof would be? What proof would you need to believe it's flat? What do you need?
picture from space.
Well, there you go. We're in the same boat. Yeah. What else? What else do you need to prove that it's flat?
Picture of the ice wall surrounding the Earth.
The ice wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know we can't get to the ice wall. It's been protected, and you know that we don't have access to space. So what else?
Right. An explanation of why Australia has 18 hours of sun and we have 8. That's 26 hours.
I told you, I'm not a scientist like that. I can't explain why the sun does its magical mystery thing like that.
Not doing
So
very
that's
well
what you would
here,
need
are
then,
we?
an explanation of the sun. So if we gave you an explanation, that would convert you to flat Earth, yes?
Well, it's got to work though. You can't just fucking ramble off any old shit. What about the explanation? What about an explanation for the rotation of the stars in the southern and northern hemisphere? Why do they rotate in different directions?
Yeah, but again, if you had a picture, you would have to. How would you explain it?
Right. So you can't explain that either.
No,
Right,
I'm saying
okay.
if you had a picture.
Okay.
How
Can you explain the sunset?
Sun doesn't set.
Right.
It just goes away from you.
Goes away from you, does it?
Yeah, it goes out further and further.
What, in the rest of our life, what happens when something is really close to you and then moves away from you? What happens to its size, Kim?
The sun does change size. Someone's done a video on it.
Right.
They've measured it.
So how much does it change by then, Kim? Right, struggling here. It's struggling a bit here as well, Kim, aren't we?
You seem to ignore me every time I've stated it.
So we just keep fucking struggling, Kim. Why are you struggling all the time?
Talk like an agent provocateur. Because as soon as I try to talk, you won't let me talk.
Oh, Adam, what's the matter? Don't you like it? That's what you do to everyone else, Adam. Oh, are you taking some of your own
You're
medicine
trying to
now?
flip the burden of proof onto somebody else when the burden of proof.
No, Adam. I'm keeping the conversation on track. I'm keeping the conversation on track about flat Earth, Adam. That's what you wanted. That's what you wanted. That's what I'm doing. Keeping it on track with flat Earth. Moan. I do ratings. I'm bringing it back to flat Earth.
That we live on the round ball.
On simple questions.
You cannot then now push the burden of proof onto other people when you haven't the evidence or so-called evidence that you're referring to.
There is no burden of proof. It's called a flat Earth debate. So it's about flat Earth, Adam. If you don't like it, then go join another room. But I thought you said you wanted to talk about flat Earth. We don't want to talk about flat Earth. We talk about something else. But don't accuse me of derailing flat Earth.
We're talking about
if you don't want to talk about flat Earth.
How the information that's being provided about the round Earth is actually false, and that we should be
about the round Earth,
paid the amount of money that round Earth is paid.
We're talking about
people like ourselves to the flat Earth.
So you want to derail the flat Earth and talk about the round Earth,
Adam? That's not even let me speak. If you want us,
you need to debunk the board.
So you want to derail the flat Earth and talk about the round Earth? Okay, well I'm sorry, I don't want to participate in that. If you two want to carry on with derailing the flat Earth about talking about the round Earth, that's up to you.
Yeah,
I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. I'm here to talk about the flat Earth, so I'm going to go on mute and let you two derail the conversation. Thank you.
Well, no, what I'm trying to say is this is the trick again. You see, the con, right? And this is where the wise men of this earth, they come out, right? And they try to fool people with their wise words, their clever tactics. You know, I'm here to talk about flat Earth when it's all about the ball. This is what the con is: the ball, not the flat Earth. Flat Earth isn't a con, right? If it's flat, it's flat. If it's not, it's not. We don't know. That's what we're saying. You to tell us that it's a ball. There's the con, right? So if you're going to try and come with a con, we're going to break down and reveal your secrets. You know, reveal this magic trick, this magic show that you're trying to give everybody. That's the whole point, Mark, right? And this is where this is when I see that you are like a magician or a tactician, and you're trying to, you know, be clever. The clever clogs, as I said before, you're trying to divert. This is all about you, what you think, the way you see the world, about how you try to fool everybody. You know, this lie. We can see through this lie. If you're part of this is your lie, right? And we're exposing this. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, well, if you look at Mark as a whole, he's in here and he's acting like an agent provocateur within the room itself, talking. He won't actually back any of his claims up. And then when we look in the chat, he's trying to provoke people in there as well. He's attacking people in there as well for calling him out for fraudulent activity. So it just seems like this person is some type of agent provocateur.
Right, and that's clear from the way that, you know, he comes and goes, and he's just here to disrupt. He quickly went on to something else, you know, when he knew that he was in a corner, because that's all they have. So tactics and agents, you know, trying to do a trick here, trying to fool the masses into something, you know, that we've all believed it. Everybody was fooled. I believe in the ball, you know, but we've all seen the light now. We've woken up, and it's time, Mark. You know, you can step down now. Your position should be in another room with new people to try to disrupt them, not the guys who, you know, who have got their eyes wide open. 2 seconds back.
Well, no, what he's actually trying to do is defame the character, you know, defame people's character. They're you know, defame people. So if like myself, you know, they like to sit there and they'll have a half of discussion with me. And then when I get to the point of making them realize that some of the things we've been taught are absolutely absurd, then they'll go to defaming my character. You know, they won't actually try and debunk the things I've said or have a proper discussion about what I've said. They'll just attack me from angles and things I've said in the past and whatnot. So that's how they, you know, accomplish their goal, is provoking people and then making them retaliate. Previously, Mark Taylor has sat there and antagonized me to the point of me saying some dumb things. And now whenever I get to a point of discussion, instead of actually having a discussion, he'll use what I've said previously when he was one of the people provoking me in the first place, and then try and use that against me. That's a form of agent provocateur right there.
Tactics are at work here. And, you know, everything that they've been learning, because they've been studying this, how to analyze people, how to work with people, what to do in these situations. And they're doing it right now, right? They're listening to how we're cooperating, how we're coming together to try to find some kind of solutions. So it's their job now is to how to get inside of that and disrupt it. What can we do to disrupt? You know, so I think, you know, it's going to come to a point where, you know, that, I don't know, we may be considered as dangerous to this movement because we are just as relentless as the people trying to stop us. You know, and if you know, they're going to have to use different tactics soon. Once, you know, sooner or later, or one way or another, it's going to come to a point where, you know, something has to give. You know, either we're going to continue to push this, or they're going to have to become, you know, come stronger, more clever. Because the con man, you know, he's there to con. So that means I have to be con. You have to be con. They need to improve their tactics in order to be able to con the likes of yourself and myself and the people who are out there who are trying to bring this truth forward. So, you know, that's why Mark takes the back seat sometimes, because he's realized that, you know, the level of people on the ground is too high, right? So they have to analyze how we're doing this, what we're doing, and come up with a plan. They need a plan, right? Because we seem to be in disorder, in chaos. You know, it's flat, but how can we prove it? So they're just not come with tactics. You know, we go away, we think about it. They do. It's like a warfare. This is what we're in. We're in like some type of warfare here. Unknowingly, you know, you come into this thinking, I just want to tell people about, you know, the shape of the earth here and what lies are, and then you find that you're up against sharks and like military people. It's insane. Give me 2 minutes, make them through.
Exactly. I'd agree right there. You know, you come into this, like anybody that has an open mind comes into this trying to debunk it. That I started off with flat earth, trying to debunk it myself, and then was quickly turned around and realized that by trying to debunk this, I actually found out that NASA's fraudulent. And NASA is one of the main companies that is referred to when you are talking about a proof of a ball Earth or evidence of a ball Earth. They say, well, look at the images that are provided from satellites and whatnot. And all these satellites are run by agencies like NASA. If they're not NASA affiliated, then there is no company that has these things in the air that is not NASA affiliated or military. So, like, the rhetoric that they use is provoking into a way where you get to a point of realizing that there is no truth that is being provided by these agencies, and they might be employing some of these people to come on here and derail any type of information flow. Because for me and you to sit here and go back and forth, Spurs, we might find, you know, more truth. We might be able to actually come to some type of realization or be able to provide proof or evidence that these companies are fraudulent. But what they try to do is misdirect us into trying to provide proof of a flat Earth, when we know, I can say openly, that I don't know what shape it is. But the evidence that I've been provided saying that it's a round Earth is fraudulent, and I cannot.
Can you produce some evidence for that, Adam?
The fact that any satellite does not send any type of image back.
Can you produce
I am.
some evidence?
I'm giving you the evidence right now. I'm trying to give you the evidence.
So can you produce some evidence for your claim, Adam?
Satellites do not send pictures back down to Earth. They send data that can be manipulated by a human. So if there's any type of human involved, that would be where the manipulation is involved.
So all right, if it was a computer sending data
to another computer, and the computer had a program running that was based on true statements and whatnot, then we could trust that. But a human is involved within nearly every step of this, where
Well,
that
no
means that
evidence
the
then,
data
okay,
can be
just to clarify, Adam's
manipulated into a
producing
way
no
where they're
evidence for his
recreating it
claim.
into an Earth,
Thank you very
into a
much for
round
that.
Earth,
Thank
and
you.
people believe this lie. People are so what would it be? They're so desperate to put themselves on a pedestal, like yourself, Mark. You're so desperate to put yourself on a pedestal that you haven't looked into these claims that you make for yourself. Saying that we're going to dig feet first out of a hole. That's the claim that you made earlier, Mark. You know, we could go back in this film, in this broadcast right now and get your claim that you would dig feet first out of a hole.
I've made no claim. I made no claim.
But you did. You made that claim.
I made no claim, Adam. I made no claim.
Digging, you had to
Made no
show
claim. Right, so you've been rambling on about, you know,
you might make yourself look stupid.
you've been derailing the
Right.
conversation about flat Earth 20 minutes now. Let's get it back on topic. Flat Earth. Let's have some evidence for your Adam, use chemo or Adam for flat Earth, right? I'm going to go on mute again for a chance for you to
The
give
horizon.
the
The horizon is proof of a flat Earth. It's flat. Your perspective will change based on how your elevation, and you'll be able to see further, but it's still flat. If you go to the point of where the horizon is and you look towards your new horizon, it'll be flat. So if I look out now to my horizon line and then travel to the point of where that horizon line would be, and then look out to the distance where in the same direction, it's still flat. I can continuously do this and it's always flat. There's proof. There's not evidence. There's proof, Mark, because evidence is a fact. Evidence is true, and science doesn't go off true. They're working on theories.
Yeah, but I see curve, Adam. I see ships going over the horizon. So that's produced the
I'd
globe.
say that you're
So,
indoctrinated.
okay,
You've been brainwashed to see a curvature.
So you're indoctrinated.
Even if you're on a round ball, you should see it. Even if you're on a round ball, like they say we are, you should not see any type of curvature.
Even if you're on a flat Earth, you should not see any sign of straight lines.
Your perspective would be flat.
No, your perspective, if you're on a flat Earth, you'd be perspective would be flat.
So would it be on a round ball too? But
so it would be on a flat Earth as well.
The only way that you could see a curvature is if
the only way you could see any flat lines.
Type of an igloo or something, you know.
If it was type of an igloo or something, that's the only way you could see a flat line. If it was type of an igloo.
You live on a cylinder. That's where you can say you could see.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a cylinder though, because it'd be flat. So it couldn't be a cylinder. It'd have to be flat. See, that's what you'd see if you were living on a globe.
Like, you know, what we've been taught is that we live on a round ball.
That's what we've been taught, that we live on a flat plane. It's wrong. It's all wrong.
Your horizon line being curved.
See, it proves that the horizon line is flat, and we don't actually live on a flat plane. We live on a globe, so that's why it's flat. It's flat.
To represent what you're saying with a model, then.
Well, if you wanted to represent what you're saying with a model,
is that we live on a cylinder. If you're saying
describing that we live on a flat Earth,
brainwashed, we're living on a cylinder.
You're brainwashed that we live on a flat Earth.
But the flat Earth is a result or the conclusion of you not telling the truth.
Right. So what lie have I told then? What lie have I told him?
You said it's a spinning ball.
Oh, when did I say that?
Oh, it's not a spinning ball, yeah?
When did I? We're not asking about what it isn't. I'm saying, when did I say that?
I came into this in the belief that you were saying that we live on a ball that is spinning around the sun.
When did I say that?
I've heard you say it before.
When before?
I don't know exactly which video, Mark.
But I thought we weren't. I thought when I mentioned something about what Adam said before, you said no, that can't be counted. So
it's nothing to do with the shape of the Earth.
What I said before, that we weren't talking about the shape of the Earth. We was talking about whether people lie or tell the truth. When I was pointing out that Adam doesn't.
Oh, I was in the kitchen. I didn't hear any of that.
Right.
But my point is that you're.
So I haven't made no claim then, have I? If we can't use what Adam says in the past, then you can't use what I've said. So from the start, I've made no claim, Adam.
So now you're just confusing everybody. Are you saying
I'm not. I'm making no claim, like I said to you. Yeah, I've been accused of derailing the conversation. I've been accused of derailing the conversation. So I said to you, I won't derail it. Let's talk about flat Earth. I've asked you to present some evidence for flat Earth. Adam's admitting he's got no evidence. All he's got is proof. But
So
proof's
you
not
now
good enough.
say that you don't know if you want a spinning ball. That's
But
great.
you did make
I haven't
claims,
said that.
Mark.
I haven't said that.
You did make claims. You've made two
talking
claims
about,
now.
We're talking about.
You've made
the
two
flat
claims
Earth.
now, Mark. You've made two
We're talking
claims now,
about the
Mark. You've
flat
made two
Earth,
claims.
Kimo.
You've made two claims now, Mark. You've said that
Unless
you've
you want
seen
me to
curvature.
derail
That's
the
a claim.
conversation
All right,
again.
you've
Do you
said
want me to
that.
do that, Kimo?
Listen, Linda, listen. You've said that you've seen curvature, so that's a claim.
Kimo,
And
do
you
want
said
me to
that.
derail the
And you said that if it was a round ball, then you'd be digging out of
Or do you
this
want to
ball
talk about
from
flat
first.
Earth?
I'm talking
stop
about
being
what you're trying to say is true. So
I'm
you're
not
trying
being
to like.
childish, Kimo. I'm trying to find out what you want to do. You either want to talk about flat Earth or you don't.
I'm trying to make sure that everybody realizes that you do not know what you're talking about. And I hope to God that you don't have children and teach them the dumb shit that you're trying to represent here.
So
you're a liar.
I asked you to produce a lie that I've said, but you can't produce the lie. So I don't think it's a bit. And who was you just saying about?
Yeah,
I was
you
calling
said
you
that you've seen
names?
curvature. That's a lie.
You've called me a liar 2 or 3 times now. So I think the only person whose game is calling names is yours, Kimo. I haven't called you any, but you've called me a liar.
Either it's a flat plane or it's a spinning ball. Which is it?
Well, I'm asking you what it is. You're the one that's making the claim. It's a flat
So
Earth
if you
debate.
don't know, take a back seat and try to learn something.
That's what you want to do, Mark.
That's what I'm trying to do, but you haven't got no evidence, Kimo. You keep doing this waffling.
You want people that are open-minded to make a claim.
So if
then
you
the
can
burden
produce
of
some
proof is on
evidence,
them.
Kimo, I'm willing to learn. But you have no evidence,
No,
do you?
Mark.
See, watch out, Spurs, because he's trying to flip the burden of proof onto you.
I know. He's trying to ignore
No,
you.
he just said I have to sit back and learn. So I said I'll sit back and learn, produce some evidence. So what is it? You either want me to sit back and learn, or you don't. I don't understand. I'm a bit confused. I'm dumb. See, I'm stupid and dumb. So can you explain it to me? Adam?
Water always settles flat.
So do you want me to sit back and learn, Adam, or do you want me?
Water
not to
always
sit
settles
back and
flat.
learn?
I'm trying to provide you proof and evidence. Like water
You
always
just
settles
said you
flat.
had no
It's flat,
evidence,
the whole
so you had his
horizon
proof.
line, and I tried to explain the horizon line to you and how it
You
works.
said you had no
And then-
evidence, Adam. You said I have no evidence. All I have is proof.
Well, you're saying that I cannot state something. I'm making a claim right now, and water settles flat.
Oh, yeah. So for the claim, I need evidence.
That's a claim that I've made now. I've made a claim, and I can prove that. I've got a cup of water.
Well,
in front of me.
I need evidence, not proof. Evidence.
I've got a cup of water in front of me, and the water settled flat.
For a claim, I need evidence.
The water settled flat. There is no
Not
curvature
proof.
on the water that I see.
No, that's not evidence. That's proof. I need evidence, Adam.
Well, you can get a cup of water yourself. You can get a cup of water yourself, and then see
No,
when
that's
it
still not
settles.
evidence. That's proof
When it
again,
settles,
Adam.
then
that's
that's
proof
a
again,
claim.
Adam. That's proof.
How's
again,
that proof? That's
Well,
evidence.
it is because I can go out
Evidence
and prove
that-
that I can go out and prove.
Well, that would be
the ships
evidence
go
because
over-
then we've got an
go over
ocean.
the
We've got an
curve.
ocean. So then
I
you're
can
saying that
prove
this
the ships go
ocean,
out and go over the
you're saying
curve,
that
so-
this ocean that we've got sticks to a round ball when it can't because water settles flat.
Booyah. Mark, water doesn't curve. How do you explain that?
Right. So what shows the raindrop then?
Another lie, Mark, by saying that water curves
What? So what shows the raindrop?
over an object. That's in on itself.
What shape is a raindrop?
In on itself, it curves. That's a ball of
Well,
water.
then, so water
You're
can
talking-
curve in nature.
No.
There's a force acting on it.
Direct.
The force
Now you're trying to
acting
add
on
misdirection.
water is gravity.
You're trying to add misdirection. I said when water settles.
Thank
So
you
when
for
it's at a
admitting-
stagnant point. When it's at a
Thank you for
stagnant
admitting,
point.
Kimo, that water curves.
When water
That's
is
very
at a
big of you.
stagnant point, all right, of non-movement, when there is no movement, it settles flat. You're trying to now add movement into this equation.
Booyah.
That's 1 plus 1.
Movement.
That's
I
1
haven't
plus 1
mentioned
plus
anything.
movement.
I haven't
1 plus
moved
1 plus
anything about
movement
me.
equals
I haven't mentioned
whatever you
anything
want it to
about
equal.
movement. Who mentioned movement? I haven't.
Well, raindrops. That's what you put into the equation right there. Raindrops.
Yeah, we're going to get tonight too anyway.
Silly when we get more and more
Tim
technical.
Osman just joined the show, so
What? Tim?
Hello, Adam. How are you today, buddy?
hello. I heard someone say hello, Adam. I couldn't really put my finger on it. Your microphone was too low and it echoed. Is that the real event skeptic? Is that Ronnie St. James Harris?
Yes, this is Ronnie.
Oh no, that's Tim Osman.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
So Tim Rothschild, is that correct?
You got it?
Tim Rothschild?
Yes.
So am I correct in saying that? Tim Osman, the character that you use or whatever account it is, you're really Tim Rothschild, the person that collaborates with David Weiss?
You got it.
Is that, so I finally got it?
You did.
I'm just curious on why, if you're making flat Earth videos, you've decided that you're against flat Earthers for trying to reveal the information, especially somebody that done it before you. So you know that I have released flat Earth videos before you or David Weiss did. So I'm just curious on why you would attack the person that would have woken you up to the fact of such information. I was the one that helped you to be privy to this information.
Negative.
Is that just somebody using a Tim Osman soundboard? Hello? Are you there? Event? Whoever you wanted to be referred to, are you there? Have I been removed again? I'm not too sure if I've been removed again, but seems a little odd, you know? Is that you? Are you there?
Adam Dwyer is a pedophile. Negative.
I can hear you, Adam.
Oh, thanks, dude. I don't know if that's a soundboard of the character or if that's actual the person that usually comes
Adam
on.
Dwyer is a pedophile. Negative. Negative. Negative.
I would say that's definitely a soundboard.
Negative.
Who knows? If I'm correct, then the person that they're using a soundboard of, like, or if it even is the right person, like, it might be a soundboard or it might be the real person that's behind that voice. And if I'm correct, that's Tim Rothschild.
Negative.
Is that right? Timothy Rothschild?
Adam Dwyer is a pedophile.
Timmy Rothschild? Is that correct?
No.
Hello.
Oh, I didn't know if it was you or if it was the fake account that is made about you.
No, I'm the real Slim Shady.
Thors
So you're gonna stand up?
is a troll.
Is this Sensi or is this Bobel?
Thors is a troll.
It's a nice soundboard there.
Nice. I got 3 people to think I'm soundboarding. How you guys doing? This is Timothy Osman, live.
Well, was I correct on saying that the Timothy Osman character is actually Timothy Rothschild?
No, Tim Osman is, you just Google Tim Osman. Let me just load up the buds here.
Osama bin Laden's character that worked for the CIA, or the name that the CIA gave him when he was an operative?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you a traveling man, Tim? Are you a traveling man?
I absolutely am, yes.
Confirmed. Confirmed.
But I'm just wondering if that's Timothy Osman, like you. Are you Timothy Rothschild, sorry? Is that you?
Are you a Freemason? Are you a Freemason?
Now that I've went back and looked into all the videos and I've listened closely, I've heard the voice before and sounds very much like a Timothy Rothschild. Like I said, Look a Pig sounded exactly like David Weiss, and you sound exactly like Timothy Rothschild. So if I'm correct, you and your friend or companion or whatever it may be, you I don't know what you're doing here, but are you making money off this?
Absolutely.
You're making money off this, so you admit that you're making money.
Yes, the CIA actually really wants to put a stop to the flat Earth truth.
No, I wouldn't say that you're trying to put a stop to it, because if I'm correct, what you're doing is you're data mining, and then you're using what's said here to recreate videos under larger channels' names, which are also fraudulent, but you're using that under other channels' names, so then you can gain massive revenue out of it.
Yes, correct.
So you're taking what's being said here, and then you're uploading it on, say, Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, or Eric Dubai, or other channels like that. You're uploading it on their channel, so then you can gain mass revenue off what the information that's being presented here. So while you suppress and derail these shows, you're also stealing the information and using it elsewhere.
You are correct.
Dude, he exposed you.
Exposed. Timothy Osman exposed. Look at his dick.
Why would you like call yourself Timothy Osman when I just asked you if you were Timothy Rothschild?
No, see, my short name is Tim Osman, but my actual name is Timothy Osman.
Did you just kick the host of the show, or did they leave?
I would not do such a thing ever in recorded history of Timothy Osman being alive today.
No, debate is still in the external chat. There you go. He's back.
Maybe just drop out then.
Can you hear me, debate?
Debate? Bob?
Debate has been docked. Not this clown that's acting in for debate, but the actual real one.
Oh, so who was it? Did I get it right? I posted a comment on your video, and I said I gave you a link to a video. Was I right? Was it the Bajon network?
Nope, but you can check my video.
Oh, did you make a new video?
Oh, I'm always making flat Earth videos, man.
Can you give me a link to the video where you expose this person, please?
Exposed.
I'll watch it. I'm very curious. I'm interested in trying to find the truth. So if you could provide any type of truth, then it'll be good. But at the moment, I haven't been able to find anything that you've actually presented, and it's got
Isn't that
validity.
funny? Because that's exactly how I feel about you, Adam. Oh my God, that's great.
Hey guys, could you hear debate talking?
No.
No.
Okay, not. So you have mic issues there, debate.
Yeah, make sure to not rejoin so that this channel gets shut down. Go ahead and delete all the videos too while you're at it. Do him a favor.
Why would you delete the videos? So then the information that was presented here cannot be, like, there's no proof of the information that was presented here. So then when you make videos on the larger channels, then the people that you've stolen the information off cannot come out and say, well, they're not the ones that are actually in the know or privy to the information in any way. They are just taking it off somebody else and using it as their own.
Yeah, oh man, you got it. You nailed it on the head, Adam. Good job, man.
I'm just trying
brilliant.
I'm just trying to put an opinion out there, you know. If I'm right, then I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's conspiracy land. It's conjecture land. Go ahead, man. Make up more theories that have no reality base to them.
Why would you waste your time here then? If that's all just conspiracy
Why would
theories,
you waste your time here?
I'm trying
You're
to find
a troll.
the truth.
You're a bit of all.
I'm trying to find the truth, and I think that Flat Earth may be able to guide me to some type of truth.
So everybody's a shill and everybody's a paid agent in Flat Earth, but you still think that you can get some good information from it, right, Adam?
Not everybody.
Well, to you, everybody is. Who's not a shill?
Who's not a shill and a troll? I've met like numerous people, but if I tell you their names, then more than likely you're going to attack them like you've attacked me.
How have I attacked you? Do I?
Are you at work at the moment?
Yes, I'm at the call center.
Like when I say work, are you like at the office at the moment? I thought that you work from home. I thought that you work from home now. Have you been called into the office?
Is that the NASA call center?
Yes, it's the NASA FBI troll center.
That's FBI troll. I didn't know the organization merged. I thought they're...
I'm just curious, like you mock flat earthers so much, but yet why do you always come to their hangouts, or why do you try to derail people that are looking into it? You know that I'm not paid to be here, so why would you try and attack me so much when I'm just trying to find truth? I know, so why would you attack me so much?
No, we don't know that you're not
people like you make us look bad.
Well, you might not know Thor's, whoever you are, but the other character here, he knows that I'm not paid. I've encountered this character on other channels. Like I encountered this character and didn't even need to talk about Flat Earth. I was talking about crisis events and crisis actors and false flag events when I first met that Timothy Osmond character, or Timothy Rothschild, if I was to make an assumption on who it really is. But Thor's, were you tuned in when Jeremy was on the show and Mark Taylor and Spurs Chemo?
Yes, that's actually why I dropped in, and because I saw you here again, because you said some really, let's say, weird things there. So you're skeptical that the molten core exists?
Well, yes, I'd say I am skeptical of that, but I'm just trying to get to the point. Did you hear what else I said? So at that point of the molten core, if we were to be able to pass through that at that point, we would be trapped in a state of limbo where if there was a hole directly from one point of the Earth to the other point of the Earth, and it went through this molten core, all right, and say we were able to make some type of a tube of sorts, so then the molten core was not what would be involved in what I'm talking about right now. So the tube that we're talking about is a hypothetical tube that runs from one side of the Earth to the other through the molten core, or whatever the core may be made out of. Once you pass the point of where the molten core is, then wouldn't you fall back towards the other direction and vice versa? So then you'd be trapped in a state of limbo per se, where you're floating back and forth in between the core because you're falling at one point. So
depends. If you're free falling down, then you will go at the other end. There's some very complicated calculations to calculate this, but we are assuming that we have no traction with the walls of this tube. If we have, then we can just propel ourselves by pushing from the walls of the tube, so it doesn't matter really that gravity is kind of weird there, let's say, for the sake of discussion. But what's the point with this?
Is that a hypothetical, or is there somewhere where I can see this? Can I like?
Well, your whole example was hypothetical.
Yeah, obviously, but like, you know, where the point of being pulled towards the middle of the earth, once I get past what I would call as far down as I could get, then I would reach the point where I'm now digging upwards, but then I've already made a hole that I would fall back through, but then because I've already made that hole, once I've fallen back through, I would instantly fall the other direction because of the pull of the Earth's core, which is the densest object, apparently the densest object. So we would constantly be trapped in that falling stage of back and forth falling, if you understand what I'm trying to put across here.
Well, if you were free falling, then sure, there's going to be some funky counterintuitive things there. That's why there are calculations proposed for this. But I don't see how this proves the notion that we have a molten core at the center of the round Earth.
Well, like Spurs Chemo presented or tried to present and then was interrupted, they haven't been able to pass a certain layer depth. So what was it that they were saying? 88 kilometers or something of that sort? 88 miles?
11 kilometers is the deepest hole.
11? The deepest hole is 11 kilometers?
Yep.
Yeah, so how are they able to determine what's underneath that if they haven't been past that?
Oh, seismic data.
Seismic data.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know the properties of waves, right? Of sound waves when they pass through certain objects, right? Because we test this in a lab, right? And so when we pass these waves through the Earth, we see how it propagates and what properties they have when they come out at different places on Earth. From that, we can determine what is inside, what is underneath us, and what we see is that it's a sphere.
So they've sent a sound wave completely through Earth and it's reached the other side, you're saying?
Oh, yeah.
They have?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Can you link me to something about that, if you're able to?
I don't have it handy, how to search, but I don't see... I mean, if you're saying you don't know...
I'd like to do that. I don't know. I'd like to look into that, you know. So,
well, it's just that you're saying that we don't know.
I'm not trying to say that it's wrong. I'm just trying to say I haven't heard that they've sent a sound wave all the way through the Earth, so that'd be interesting for me to look into what they're talking about. So,
well, let's say they didn't, for the sake of discussion. Why could not they make a reasonable determination of what is inside the Earth by sending local waves, right, and then combining all the data to make a image, right?
Because that would be biased in a way where they are assuming that the elements react the same way that they react within a lab. So if I was to send sound waves through a metal object within the lab, and then I was to put that same metal object within the Earth at a lower depth than what they've already been at, so the 11 kilometers below that, how do they know it's going to react the same way?
We can replicate the conditions roughly, right? Roughly the conditions that would be inside the Earth. The conditions would be high temperature and high pressure, right? We can replicate this in a lab too.
That's assuming that occurs, you know, like that's assuming.
No, we don't have to assume that that's what it is. No, but we done both, right? So we have scientists studying these kind of phenomena for centuries now, right? How does sound propagate through different materials?
Are you talking about like people like Albert Einstein or Isaac Newton and whatnot?
I don't think they did seismic analysis or experiments like this, but I'm pretty sure there are other scientists who did, right? This is
a you give me just one name?
Yeah, off the top of my head, no. But I know that seismology exists as a field.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to say, because then I might be able to like look up their name and find some type of research that I'd look into. You know? I like looking into these things. It's interesting.
Sure. Well, you can look up seismology.
Seismology, yeah, I can look into that now and maybe find something of my own. But yeah, like would have been a lot easier if I had some type of name to go off that, you know, the person that actually accomplished it. But Google will help me there. Google's a good starting point. So from Google, then I can go to the library and whatnot. So
right, just that you said in the other hangout that we don't have good reason to believe that there is a molten core, right? And just it turns out you didn't really look into this.
Well, because I would say I don't know if there's a molten core. I didn't say that I have good reason to believe there is or there isn't. I just say I wouldn't know because what I've learned is that they haven't been able to pass a certain depth. So, and me being unbiased, I would say that everything past that point would be an assumption. They can assume that they're the metals and whatnot, but we don't know that, say, iron doesn't react the same way as water when it's put under certain pressures and temperatures and whatnot, and it's compressed underneath the earth. You know what I mean? Like,
of course we do.
Under these conditions, you know. So
of course we do. We can replicate these conditions in a lab on a smaller scale.
We really can't replicate the conditions, because you're saying like you're able to have the amount of minerals or the amount of elements. You know, how can I explain that? Like, the earth is apparently how deep, and you're saying that you can replicate that, but you don't have the amount of elements to put within that. So you'd have to have the amount of dirt and other things that are combined with this, you know, like metals and minerals and other things, you know, stones, diamonds, other things like that. You'd have to have all of them combined and then pushed, compressed forests, you know, and whatnot that have been compressed and fossilized and other things like that. You would have to put all that into the equation and have the amount of that. You could try to say that you've put it into a scale type of experiment, but that's biased to say that it would react the same way when there's a lot more mass.
Well, how would any of that could change the results?
Because of the
the thing is, Adam, you can like say that
you're assuming that like one layer of dirt, say a millimeter thick, you can replicate a kilometer worth of dirt. You can do experiments with a millimeter of dirt to a kilometer of dirt, and they would have the same type of outcomes and whatnot. That's I don't think that's true.
Well, the thing is, so this is touching a little bit on philosophy, right? You're saying that, well, we didn't know for a fact that those particular combination of circumstances in which we would propagate sound would be exactly the same as when we do it on the surface of the earth, right? Without all the minerals, right? With all the specific combinations. Well, you can say this about anything, right? You could say, well, how do we know that in China sound waves propagate like in America, right? Or how do we know that in a Chinese house sound waves propagate the same way? Or how do we know that the Chinese soil will have the same properties as it does in America, right? And from that you can also say, therefore we should not sell cars there and fly planes there, because we do not know, right? It might be some specific conditions in China that doesn't allow planes to fly, so we should not send planes there, right? You see, this is sort of global skepticism, right? This is, while it's a legitimate possibility, it could be that there is something unique there in China that doesn't allow for, let's say, jet engines to operate, right? But when we don't have any good reason to think so.
That's not what I'm really saying, though, because we're talking about we're on the top layer of this earth. We're on the top layer, and so is China. China's on the top layer, so their tests or experiments would be the exact same that we would be able to do.
Well, you don't know that. That's the thing. It could be, again, that there is some unique properties in the oceans or in the atmosphere above China, right? Just like there's unique geological formations everywhere in the world. It could be that from these geological formations, you have unique atmospheric conditions, right? Because, for example, soil itself is different throughout the Earth. There's slight differences there, right? And so you could apply the same criticism like what you did to, this analysis of the seismic data, and say, well, there's a possibility that these new combinations of properties might completely fuck up the data, right? But that applies to everything. That's not how reasonably we go around our lives.
On the top layer, what we're able to do right now is, if you, like you've said, these unique conditions that might occur within the top layer in these different masses of land might create what I've tried to put across, it would be the same type of output, but we can also take the dirt from China and then take it to the same place that we've conducted the experiments previously. So if I'd done the experiments with the dirt here with these sound waves, I could then go to China and grab the dirt from their country and then bring it back to Australia and conduct the same experiment and have an unbiased result where we're unable to penetrate.
Well, no, that's the thing. You see, somebody could say, well, there's some kind of magical properties to China any soil that is in China has property X, but when you take out of China, it loses that property, right? And this is sort of kind of like what you're saying about this inner core seismic sort of experiments, right? And then you're sort of right. It is a possibility that unique conditions there could be that would funk the data. But that's not how humans reasonably go about about their lives, right? We go by what we know, right? And we infer probable scenarios based on what we know, right? We have no reason to think that there is some kind of magical situation in China, and we don't have any reason to think that there's any kind of special conditions in the inner core which would make our seismic analysis to be wrong, right? And also, we construct a coherent picture from the seismic data, right? If there was a something that we didn't account for, we would get gerbled data, but we don't. We see a clear image of a spherical Earth with layers, right, inner core, etc., as the hypothesis predicts, right? It's kind of like if you have a.
But also, they're sending these radio waves down and whatnot, and then they're assuming that it's an element that they've already encountered and whatnot. So
These
then
are not radio
their
waves.
research would be, well, what is it? Sound wave, sorry.
Yeah.
Then their research would be biased towards them assuming that they have found every type of element, but they haven't been able to exceed this 11-kilometer limit that they're at the moment. So how do they know that there are different elements that react the same way to elements that we have already counted on the top layer? So within the first 11 kilometers of this Earth, there might be elements that react the same way to elements that are under 11 kilometers where we have not been, and they're assuming that it's the same element that they've encountered on the top 11 layers, or 11 kilometers, sorry.
Right, but you're just leveling the same objection, right? And I tried to explain to you that, while it's possible, that's not reasonable to doubt. That's not a reason to doubt the data, right? Especially when the data is showing a very coherent and clear picture, right? If our data was garbled by some interference, it would come out garbled, be weird interference, be weird image, right? But we don't see it. I mean, you would have to say that there is some kind of very unique circumstances there, that when we send sound waves from any point of the Earth, that it somehow makes them to show that there is a sphere inside, right? How would that happen without there actually being a sphere or us living on a sphere? You would have to propose some very funky and almost magical circumstances to say that, somehow it would make these waves propagate through this flat plane as if it is a sphere, right? There's no mechanism that I know that would cause it, and no scientists know, right?
Well, that could be the fact that the way that they're what are these people that are studying it again? Seismologists. It could be that the way that they're taught is a form of shamanism, where they believe that they are seeing something, but when it's data that's being used, and the data could be manipulated into a way where anything they anything they receive will then be translated into a ball. It's just like the satellite type of rhetoric that they push to us. They say that the satellites beam certain sound waves or radio waves or laser beams down to the depths that they can find and whatnot to then shape out the Earth. And then they send data back to the Earth that then recreated into images of the Earth, and it represents a round ball. But this could be because of a shaman that's created the data in a way in the first place. The original people that created this data made it so then any information would translate into the ball.
Right, and you're saying kind of like what I was saying with the whole magical China example, where you take the soil out of China, it loses a property, right? So the problem is, Adam, while it is possible, let's say hypothetically, there's this shaman who makes all the data to show this kind of phenomenon. You could say this about anything in your life. You could say that when you go outside, right, you're actually not seeing the world as it is because there's some kind of voodoo magician or whatever who is manipulating your mind to think there's no cars on a road when you want to cross this, right? Thus, you should not go across the road because the shaman is fooling you, and they're actually cars.
Because I'm talking about a human being, so unless they've been able to interact with my eyes and with my personal eyes, then no, that's not accomplishable by another human being. So unless I'm wearing a pair of glasses of some sort or whatnot,
right,
or they've been able to interfere with my eyes.
Right. Unless there's a mechanism proposed by which this entity could manipulate this, you have no reason reason to think that it's happening, correct?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
good. No, awesome. Now, by that logic, can you propose a scientific mechanism by which the seismic data would be affected by the shaman, or, as we talked before,
Well, that'd be the sound waves, sound waves, and the way that the data is transmitted back.
Right. How could a shaman affect this? What mechanism?
Because they're the ones that created these devices in the first place and understand the mechanics of these devices and the way that the data is being transmitted back.
Okay,
so on the receiving point, they were able to then create the receiving point is where they send a sound wave down, and only the data would be recreated in a way where the shaman would be able to maintain whatever lie they were proposing in the first place.
So now you have to get into really complicated discussion, because we have hundreds, if not thousands, of seismologists doing seismic experiments, right?
That are using a device that, you know what I mean. But
they also calibrate. They also calibrate this, right? Scientific devices are calibrated to make sure they're functioning correctly. So he would have to be able to switch on and switch off this sort of modes of functionality, right? Of these devices that he made when they are, either testing it on a control subject, right, to make sure that it's working properly, that it's showing reality to them, and when they're trying to measure the earth, right? So when they're doing the control test, the calibration, he needs to switch it off and allow the device to function properly, so that they don't notice that. Oh,
well,
look,
their calibration might be an assumption, like they are assuming that they're calibrating the devices correctly based on the knowledge given to them previously on how to calibrate these devices.
Sure, right.
So
Sure. Well, okay. Here's the thing. We can say that there is some kind of, demigod, let's say Zeus, right? He is manipulating your eyes, right? Because he has some supernatural powers, right? He's manipulating your eyes to hide from you the fact there are cars going on a street, on a road, right? So thus, again, as I said, you should not cross roads.
But I'm not saying it's a demigod. I'm saying that it's human interference. Shaman is human.
Yeah, no.
So
and the thing is, I know, I understand. The thing is that it's the same category of an objection, right? You're bringing first of all, something that I do not accept exists, like this shaman that created all seismological instruments, and that the shaman can interfere with the results of scientific investigation. I didn't grant you that. In a similar matter, right? I'm telling you, look, Adam, you should be skeptical of these things and not trust, these situations.
Well, not my own eyesight, but if I was to wear a pair of glasses, like when you put your hypothetical across to me that when I'm crossing the road, there may be cars there when I do not see cars there. Well, then I would have to be wearing a device made by a human being, or a device of some type that was made by a human being, like a pair of glasses of some sort, lenses of some sort, contact lenses, something that's interfering with my direct vision, like other than what I come into this world with.
Right, but do you believe that there are supernatural entities that exist?
No.
You don't? I thought you believed in the spider gods, don't you?
Well, that's not supernatural.
Oh, okay, interesting.
They're just a scaled measurement, like a scale model. So when we look at microscopic organisms, we would be a microscopic organism compared to the creatures that may exist in realms above us. Like if we were to scale ourselves to the point of being a microscopic organism to something else, then in that realm of whatever you wanted to call that, I would say realm of living, well, then there may be creatures that are spider-like, and you might refer to them as spider gods, but I'd say that's more of a scaled measurement thing.
I see, okay.
And no,
so
I don't believe in ghosts.
You don't?
No.
Really? Okay.
No, I don't believe in ghosts.
Okay, so nothing supernatural. All
right. But I don't believe energy is transferred, and if your energy doesn't dissipate, so I'm not too sure. Like somebody might refer to something as a ghost, but it might just be an energy that has not been transferred properly in some way or not whatnot. I can't tell you exactly how it would work. You might be able to call it a ghost if you wanted to, but I would just say it may be remnants of an energy that was once here. It wasn't like
Sure. Well, okay, sure. If you don't believe that, that's fine. Do you drive a car by any chance?
Do I drive a car? Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Now we can use this as an example because that is man created, right? So I can levy the same objection you levy to this scientific data and say that there could be a human who's manipulated your car to make it stop braking, for example. Thus, you should not drive a car. Right? But you would say, well, that's ridiculous. I have no reason to think that it's happening. Right?
Well, no, like I would say that that's always a possibility that when I'm not around my car, that somebody may tamper with my car. So I wouldn't say that I need to check it all the time because I have what would it be? Not faith, but there are other things that can protect me from that knowledge of what the car sounded like previously, or the way I interacted with it, and the feel I got for the car. If it feels differently, then I may assume that's my car's being tampered with, or some of the mechanics have changed within the car and whatnot. So then I would take it to somebody that has experience in checking that out, which would be called a mechanic, to ask him if anything is changed within certain parts that I noticed the difference within.
Now, why can the scientists do the same things with these seismographs?
Well, I don't know because I haven't seen the tools they use to study the depths and the layers and whatnot. And
it's a machine, unlike your car, right? Unlike your car, rather.
Similar to, well, I'd have to look into what devices they actually use. You know what I mean, and how they're accomplishing their sound waves, receiving the sound waves back and whatnot, and how biased their machine is, and how they calibrate their machines on the surface, and then come to an understanding that it's calibrated properly. That's what I would say. So I would have to research calibration of these devices, and I'd actually have to look into seismology and the way that they've come to their understanding of their research.
Right, but you're acknowledging that it is a possibility that they could do something similar to what you would do to alleviate the possibility of nefarious manipulation, right?
Yeah, but then because I would go to a mechanic and they would then seismology, you would have to go to a more experienced seismologist if you're a seismologist yourself. Yeah, beg your pardon?
They would go to a technician to test the equipment.
Technician. So
right,
I'd have to look into it, but yeah, like that's what I'd say is how do they know that the technician has also received the similar knowledge that they have received and only have a minute more, like their understanding is only a little bit more than what theirs is. So
you could say that about the mechanic too, can't you?
Yeah, obviously, and that's the point of, like, a mechanic is not fully understanding of everything about a car, every aspect of a car.
Sure, right.
They may assume they are.
Right, and you also have to assume that
they're only human beings, you know what I mean? Right. They're only human beings that are brought into the world, and then a mechanic at their highest level would be somebody that has been in that industry for years, and really they're only at a certain understanding of that information.
Right, but would you not agree that it's not a good reason to not drive a car merely because there's this possibility that somebody could have manipulated it?
No, I would say that like, people drive cars every day and they're tampered with, though. So
sure, but you drive a car, right? And you do not stop yourself from driving a car because there's this possibility that somebody could have manipulated.
Because there's not the well, you're saying the same thing with seismologists. So you're saying that they shouldn't, like, they're not going to question their devices because of the concept of somebody else manipulating that, because they've been able to, say, predict or get what they feel is correct information from that device previously.
It's a bit different because they are actually assuming that their device could be malfunctioning, and all scientists do this. That's why they demand repeatability, and generally the scientific community waits for the experiment to be repeated by some other that is independent. So you have corroborating evidence from two different teams using two different equipments, right? So it's a bit stronger than even the car example that I gave you.
Yes, collaboration,
right?
Yeah.
Right. So, but do you not agree? Do you not see that it is quite reasonable for us to accept the data, at least on their face, until we have investigated it, perhaps find a flaw, accept it as it is, that it is showing the shape of the Earth, right?
I can understand what you're trying to propose, but that's based on the fact that these seismologists actually think that they're receiving correct information in the first place.
Right,
See, when I drive a car, I'm actually in the car itself and I'm driving the car, where these seismologists are assuming that they're receiving the correct information back from their devices that is being sent through a layer that nobody's ever penetrated before.
Right, and you can say the same thing about the
tunnel a million times, but these people have never driven through their tunnel, if you get that hypothetical.
Sure, but here's the thing, because your car also has instruments that you trust. The speedometer, right?
Yep.
Fuel.
That speedometer is only when it says that I'm going a certain miles per hour. That's based on information.
The speed of the wheels. Yes, the rotation of the wheels.
But like it's speed. Like when we say 1 kilometer per hour, how can you define a kilometer?
Well, we have a measure for that. It's based on a meter, and the meter.
How can you define a meter?
Thing.
You know what I mean? A meter. You know, like how do you know that 1 centimeter is 1 centimeter?
Oh, it's arbitrary. We pick an object by which we then
see, that's what I mean. That object that's what I mean. Is that object is what defines that particular information. You know what I mean? And where they've never been able to actually penetrate this 11 kilometers, so they have had nothing to define it against that or compare it against.
Well, it doesn't matter what kind of values we use. It's, you know, we have measure of distance, we have measure of time. It doesn't matter that we pick an arbitrary measure as long as it is consistent.
That's where I get to that. It's all arbitrary. So, you know, a 1 second is only based on something else that they've been able to base it off. Like,
well, does it matter? I mean, let's say that tomorrow we all decide that instead of an hour having 60 minutes
that it has 100 minutes
or 100 minutes, right? Would that cause some kind of chaos if we successfully transition? No. We would just realize
the universal that may be used.
Sure, right. So it doesn't really matter. It's what is arbitrary there is the ultimate standard, so to speak, right? But as long as everybody knows that that's what it means, we all refer to that. It is not really arbitrary for daily use, and we know what it is when somebody says 1 hour or 1 kilometer per hour, right? But what I was talking to before is that your speedometer could be manipulated such as to show a higher speed a lower speed than you're actually going, and thus causing you to go over the speed limits and, you know, catching fines, right? But you would not again say that just because it is possible that somebody could have manipulated my speedometer, that I therefore should not drive my car.
Oh no, but I'll say what I would say there is if I got pulled over and then the police officer said that I was exceeding a certain speed limit and I thought I wasn't because it was based on the speedometer. I was checking my speedometer and I was going the speed limit that I was apparently supposed to be going, and they pulled me over and said that I was exceeding that limit, then I would have cause to not drive that car until it got checked.
But you're saying you should, right, but you're sort of agreeing with me, because you are agreeing that unless we find contrary data that shows our data to be flawed, right, we should not assume that they are flawed, right? By that example, that you're saying that you will only think that your speedometer is showing a false value if and only if somebody confirms it, right? Like a policeman with a radar.
The device that the police officer would be using to check my speed would be based off the same measurements that have been able to. How would I describe this? The experiment has been accomplished by the same device where they haven't never exceeded this 11 kilometers, so they're assuming that it's an assumption that the minerals or whatever it is going to react the same way, whereas speed has already been determined and the devices that are determining this speed are all based off that determination of it. So and we've been able to verify that because of fact checking it, of previous constant checking of that. So the police officer using speedometer, what would they use? A radar checker of some type? Well, I'm not too sure what they call it.
Yeah, they use a radar, yes.
So they use their device that's also based off something similar to a speedometer, you know, so you can verify that by taking the police officer's
they use a different phenomena though.
And then you can check them on another device itself, on another vehicle itself. So you can check the police officer's device and then see if it's if it's reading a higher reading to another device to another vehicle, but they're not able to determine that because on the other hypothetical of inside the Earth, because they've never been able to exceed this 11 kilometers. If that's correct, I don't know what measurement it is that they've not been able to penetrate, but you said it's 11, so I'll go off your word with that at the moment.
Sure, but it seems like you're really going back to the same objection. You're saying, well, it's possible there is some unique set of circumstances that could cause a false data, right?
Yeah.
But we went through this whole thing, multiple examples that I tried to give you, that it is not reasonable to assume so.
going off things that can be double and triple checked off other things. So then we could use, instead of using a vehicle, we could then check the speed of with a plane or a tennis ball, you know, and chuck a tennis ball past this device that the police officer's using and verify. We don't have to use a vehicle. See where the vehicle.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter whether or not
verify this off other than the Earth. So, and they, like I've said, they haven't been able to penetrate this 11 kilometers. So their assumption is that, you know, a tennis ball, their tennis ball. Their tennis ball is the same object as the car. That's what, it's the same object.
Ultimately,
where it's not the same object. You know what I mean? Because they're assuming that the tennis ball is the same as the car.
It's the same objection you're living this whole time, right? And you mentioned before that but we can test and triple test and corroborate the speedometer, the radar. Well, it doesn't matter, right? We're talking about at the point where you are doing something, because at that point you cannot verify your speedometer, right? People cannot every day in every instance verify by 3 other corroborations that their speedometer is actually showing the actual speed. We have to assume that it is.
Well, to a point, unless you're able to then get another car to drive right next to you. I know what you're saying, because that's at every single point of driving a car. So you would have to assume that you are doing 60 kilometers and the car next to you is also doing 60 kilometers, because it's traveling at the same rate that you are, and the speed limit is 60 kilometers, and you both pass the police officer and do not get pulled over. So, but that's a I don't know how you're comparing that to the Earth and the radio waves when they have not exceeded a certain point. So once they're able to exceed that point and then verify that the minerals below that point are what they say they are, then I can come to an understanding of what you're saying. But at the moment, they can't even penetrate that point. So how can they assume that it's the same minerals that are above when we've been able to penetrate any mineral here? We've been able to penetrate that, but the mineral, like the whatever's down at 11 kilometers, is impenetrable at this present time. Was I removed? Oh, he left. That's where I'm lost in all this. So I can have a discussion about it. And thanks, Thors, for leaving the links that you did. If you got removed, that wasn't me that removed you. If you left because you lagged out, then sorry about that. That was a good discussion. I'm going to look into this seismology and get a little more understanding of it and whatnot. But they're assuming that the elements are the same. So like I've tried to describe, past this 11 kilometer point, the radio waves are sending data back that's showing, say, similar readings to what iron would cause within the surface, and they're assuming that it's iron that's below this 11 kilometers, where it could be another element that reacts in a similar way but is not the same at all. It's a completely different element. So it might be that the test is biased in the first place to assume that they can just say that because this element reacted this way on the surface, that when they have a reading that's similar to that below this 11 kilometer mark, they can assume they can say that it is the same element, where there may be other elements that are below this 11 kilometer mark that are different and show similar, if not the exact same readings as elements that are above it. That's what I'm trying to describe. That's what I'm trying to relay here, is they're assuming that all these elements that we've found are the only elements within the Earth, but yet they cannot penetrate past the 11 kilometer mark, which means that there is another element. Probably, well, if we can penetrate iron here, if we can penetrate any mineral, any object, any element here, we can penetrate that, then why is it that we cannot penetrate past this 11 kilometer mark? And how can you assume that there aren't other elements that would show similar readings, if not the exact same readings, and be different whilst underneath that 11 kilometer mark? There might be some type of, like you said earlier, some type of little magical Chinese soil and whatnot that when you take it out of its original atmospheric pressures and whatnot, that it reacts differently in another place. A similar concept. You don't know that underneath that 11 kilometer mark that doesn't happen, because we haven't been past that point. So we can go under the assumption that they're correct at this present time, but that's an assumption, and I don't really like calling an assumption truth. We can say we assume that it's still a molten iron core, but that does not mean that it is. We can assume that it is because it shows the same readings as what a molten iron core should show, but that might be a different element that is reacting or presenting the same data that an iron core would show. But I'm sort of talking to myself now, so I'm not too sure if anybody's still in the chat. Oh, he got sniped. Oh, damn it. Spewing about that, dude. I was enjoying that. I'm going to go look into the links that you've left, Thors. I'm interested in this, so I am here for the truth. And, I really just want to find out what it is. And I might not ever be able to find out what it is, but I'm interested in looking into it. So there are a few people in the chat at the moment that are mocking me, I think. They're doing a bit of a trolling and whatnot. So Squicker Alpha says, does he realize that we know all elements and how they react? We can't drill at that one point below 11 kilometers because the rock is partially molten. Well, I'm going to ask, is there not any type of way that they can then do some type of a sucking of that molten? So as they're drilling, they suck the molten core, or they cool it down. So wouldn't there be a process where we know on the surface if there's molten lava and we separate that molten lava, we can then cool it down? So is there not any point where we can cool this down to a point where we can drill further than 11 kilometers? So put a whole bunch of water on it or whatnot, or something that can freeze it to a point, or not freeze it but cool it down so then it can be drilled and then we can exceed that 11. No, so you're saying no, we cannot ever cool this molten lava down. So that means that past the 11 meter mark, it's too hot to ever cool it down to a point that we can continue to drill. Interesting. I'm just reading the comments. So invent the process at that one point in Russia. No. So at that one particular point that they've got at the moment, that's 11 kilometers down, they have not figured out a way to cool the molten lava or whatever it is, molten rock, down to a point where then they can then extract it and then get further down. Interesting. So on the surface then, not at that point, but on the surface, if we were to get the element or whatever it is, say so if it's a rock, are we able to heat that rock up to a point of being the same temperature as what is experienced at that 11 kilometer point and then cool it down? Keep it at that temperature whilst trying to then cool it down. So, put it in some type of a furnace that keeps it at that temperature. And then whilst it's at that temperature, have they been able to then try and cool that rock down? Like, that would be one of the first experiments that you would try to do if you're trying to exceed that limit, would be find what it is. I'm sure that they're able to extract something out of there. They're able to then say dip something, volumes and thermal load. Just having a quick look into what he's just said then. It's interesting. It's interesting. Heat energy would need to be added to a space, maintain the temperature in an acceptable range. Cooling loads, amount of heat energy that will need to be removed from the space yet. Well, yeah. The heating and cooling of loads, thermal loads taken into account. Lower thermal loads indicate that relatively the dwelling will require less heating and cooling to maintain comfortable conditions. Lower thermal loads do not necessarily correspond to lower electricity use. I'm not saying pouring bags of ice into it, but if we say we were to pump, say, something that can maintain heat at the same time and not be, not absorb the heat and become the same type of, not so something that, no, not a bags of ice though. So you're saying it into the point where ice would then dissolve into water and the water then would boil to a point of being nearly the same temperature. I'm saying, like, what about an element that can maintain a stable temperature and be dropped into it? So I wouldn't say sand will turn to glass would end up being the same type of temperature, but is there maybe, I'm not too sure what element I'd be thinking of, but something that can maintain a cool temperature. If we can drill through the whole Earth, well, not the whole Earth, but to the point of the core, then we can check if the core is what they say it is, or prove that it is what they say it is. It's the point of evidence. That would be evidence that there is a molten core, and that people that are skeptical have their evidence. It's obviously why they're digging down that far in the first place, is to try and find out what is down there and if it is what they think it is. So, Squicker Alpha, you said ice, but is there something that can maintain its own temperature without being affected affected by the temperature around it a lot better than ice. Ice would quickly take to the temperature of whatever it is around it, so it would then dissolve into water, and then the water would take on the temperature of whatever it is around it, a room temperature at that point, whatever the room temperature is. Mohorovic discontinuity. Look into that. The boundary surface between the Earth's crust and the mantle, lying at a depth of about 10 to 12 kilometers under the ocean bed and 40 to 50 kilometers under the continents. No, it's a boundary between the Earth's crust and the mantle, at which seismic waves change velocity. That's interesting right there. Thank you. I think you've helped me out on what I wanted to actually see. So even before I've looked into seismology, it says right here, seismic waves change velocity at that point. So their research, their information that's being transmitted back at that point would be at a different velocity. So then they would have to assume, or what would it be, calculate the velocity and have an understanding on how to analyze that data and then say what it is. So it's that's biased research right there. Changing velocity. So how are they to determine the exact velocity that this seismic wave, or the sound wave, has actually experienced and then being received at, and then how are they able to analyze that to a point where they say, well, this is what velocity it reached, and then if we were to put it into perspective and say, like, chuck a tennis ball and then it picked up speed, then how are they able to determine how it picked up speed? Refer to the documentary The Core for details of the boring machine that went to spin the Earth's core. The documentary The Core. Down to the Earth's core. Is that the hour and 31? Down to the Earth's core, the documentary, Journey to the Center of the Earth, an hour and a half. I'll go give that a watch now, actually. That should be an interesting video. Give it a pause. Is there anything else that you can give me? That's a joke, by the way. Okay. I was going to go watch that documentary. So it's an hour and a half documentary provided by National Geographic, but it's a joke. Okay. I'm just trying to find truth. So you can sit there and pretend to be as smart as you want to pretend. I'm not pretending to be smart at all. I'm just trying to learn new information and find out what it may be. I don't believe that some of the information that I've been presented in the past, and that's made me very skeptical of any information that I'm being presented by the same companies. The extreme pressure creates material that breaks through. So if we were to fill this 11-kilometer hole that they've made in Russia, if we were able to just say flood it with water, where will that water eventually just reach the point of boiling, the same as what it is already at, like what the molten rock is at? Would it eventually reach that point of temperature, or will it start to cool down at some point? Will it lose its temperature, the molten lava? Is there no point where you can flood a volcano? You're saying this molten rock can never be cooled. You're saying that there's something that's constantly keeping it at the temperature that it's at, where if we just constantly flood it with something that's of a lesser temperature, then why would it not then lose its temperature? Nope. Because if I was to, I'm sure that they've been able to get some type of molten rock, and then once, they at the edges of a volcano and whatnot, and all down the sides of it, the molten lava that's exceeded the volcano has then hardened up, and then they're able to experiment on that molten rock and find out the elements within it. So who says that you cannot then flood the inner part of that volcano to a point where it all turns to this hardened rock? Might take a lot of water, but are you saying that's impossible? It's impossible to cool down any molten rock? No. At this present time, it might not be able to, because we might not be able to flood it quick enough with the devices that we've made. So the pumps and whatnot might not be able to pump enough water in to affect the temperature. But if we could make a device that pumps the water in quicker and keeps it at a lower temperature whilst doing so, then maybe we can cool the molten rock at 11 kilometers to the point where we can exceed 11 kilometers. Just a theory. Nope, nobody's answering the questions anyway, so I don't even know if I should go watch this documentary now. Apparently it was like a joke or something, so I was trying to look for some new information, but it looks like everybody here wants to just be on a pedestal and not really share any information, just say bold statements like read an encyclopedia, or this person that's talking doesn't know what he's talking about, when I never stated I did. I'm just trying to find new information so I can look into it. Nope. Anybody? All right, guys, I'm off. It was good talking to anybody that wanted to talk. I didn't really learn anything. I'll look into what Thor's hammer was talking about, the seismology, but I guess I'm going to have to learn on my own and try and find these informations of people that are more willing to share the information instead of trying to put themselves on a pedestal. But anyways, peace out to anybody that is interested.